The mass relay network had connected civilizations across the galaxy for 50,000 years, a web of ancient technology that made interstellar travel instantaneous. The relays obeyed laws written into the fabric of space itself, laws of mass effect fields, element zero, and carefully calculated trajectories. They had never encountered something that didn't belong to this reality at all. Kara Zor-El was responding to a distress signal when her world tore apart. The experimental Kryptonian escape pod had been her home for weeks, tracking anomalous energy signatures that reminded her too much of Phantom Zone breaches. She'd followed the readings to what her instruments called impossible, a ripple in space that registered as both matter and not matter, energy that behaved like it was folded through dimensions her people had never mapped. The distress call came through on frequencies that shouldn't exist, voices screaming about collectors and they're taking everyone before cutting to static. She'd accelerated toward the source. The pod system shrieked warnings as it approached the distortion. Then the universe inverted. Dark energy, not the familiar cosmic force she'd studied, but something alien and purposeful, reached through the tear and grabbed hold of Kryptonian technology that was never meant to touch element zero. The pod's hull screamed as mass effect fields tried to reduce its mass to nothing and Kryptonian metamaterials refused to obey. Reality made a choice, and Kara felt herself pulled through a barrier that shouldn't exist between one universe and another. The transition felt like being torn apart at the molecular level and rebuilt wrong. Her cells, designed to absorb and process solar radiation from a specific type of yellow star, suddenly found themselves in a galaxy where the fundamental laws of physics had been rewritten by ancient machines. Element zero radiation flooded her system, exotic matter that created mass effect fields when subjected to electrical current. Her Kryptonian biology tried to process it like sunlight and failed. The pod erupted from the relay in a shower of exotic particles that sent every sensor in the system into alert status. Kara barely managed to activate the emergency systems before the craft began its death spiral toward the planet below. Through the viewport, she saw a colony under siege. Massive insectoid ships hovered over modular structures that looked recently built, their hulls covered in chitinous armor that reminded her of nightmares. Beams of sickly yellow light lanced down from the ships, and even from orbit Kara could see figures, people, frozen in place by some kind of paralysis effect before being pulled skyward by the same beams. The attackers moved with mechanical precision, harvesting human beings like crops. Her pod systems were failing, alarms blaring in a language this galaxy wouldn't understand for another 600 years. Kara made the calculation in a fraction of a second, the pod was lost, but she could still reach those people. She blew the hatch manually and dove. The atmospheric entry should have been rough even for her. Instead, she felt the burn more intensely than she had since she was 13 and first learning to fly. The element zero radiation in her cells was interfering with her solar energy reserves, creating pockets of weakness in her otherwise invulnerable biology. She pushed through it, angling toward the largest concentration of the insectoid ships. The colony was called Freedom's Progress according to the signs she passed. The name felt bitterly ironic as she watched more colonists frozen mid-run, their faces locked in expressions of terror as the beams lifted them toward waiting ships. Element zero radiation flooded her system, exotic matter that created mass effect fields when subjected to electrical current. Her Kryptonian biology tried to process it like sunlight and failed. The pod erupted from the relay in a shower of exotic particles that sent every sensor in the system into alert status. Kara barely managed to activate the emergency systems before the craft began its death spiral toward the planet below. Through the viewport, she saw a colony under siege. Massive insectoid ships hovered over modular structures that looked recently built, their hulls covered in chitinous armor that reminded her of nightmares. Beams of sickly yellow light lanced down from the ships, and even from orbit Kara could see figures, people, frozen in place by some kind of paralysis effect before being pulled skyward by the same beams. The attackers moved with mechanical precision, harvesting human beings like crops. Her pod systems were failing, alarms blaring in a language this galaxy wouldn't understand for another 600 years. Kara made the calculation in a fraction of a second, the pod was lost, but she could still reach those people. She blew the hatch manually and dove. The atmospheric entry should have been rough even for her. Instead, she felt the burn more intensely than she had since she was 13 and first learning to fly. The element zero radiation in her cells was interfering with her solar energy reserves, creating pockets of weakness in her otherwise invulnerable biology. She pushed through it, angling toward the largest concentration of the insectoid ships. The colony was called Freedom's Progress according to the signs she passed. The name felt bitterly ironic as she watched more colonists frozen mid-run, their faces locked in expressions of terror as the beams lifted them toward waiting ships. The attackers themselves were nightmare fuel, bipedal insects the size of humans, moving with inhuman coordination, their eyes glowing with the same sickly yellow light as their technology. Kara hit the ground hard enough to crack the prefabricated street, her red cape billowing in the toxic atmosphere. The nearest insectoid creatures, collectors, the distress call had named them, turned toward her with uncanny synchronization. "Let them go," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd faced down Kryptonian warlords and lived. "I won't ask twice." The collectors responded by opening fire. Mass accelerator weapons, she'd learn the name later, propelled microprojectiles at a fraction of light speed. The rounds hit her with enough force to penetrate starship armor, and Kara felt them. Not the familiar bounce of bullets off invulnerable skin, but actual impact that made her stagger. The element zero interference was worse than she'd thought. She pushed forward anyway, closing the distance between herself and the nearest collector in a burst of speed. Her fist connected with its thorax hard enough to send the creature flying backward through a prefabricated wall. Two more appeared from side corridors, flanking her with coordinated precision that spoke of a hive mind. Heat vision lanced out, burning through one collector's armor. The beam was weaker than it should be, requiring several seconds to penetrate where normally a glance would suffice. The second collector fired some kind of biotic attack, she'd learned that term later too, that felt like invisible hands trying to rip her apart at the molecular level. Kara gritted her teeth and flew straight up, breaking the biotic grip through sheer force. From above, she could see the full scope of the attack. At least 40 collectors moving through the colony in organized sweeps, hundreds of colonists already captured or in the process of being paralyzed. The insectoid ships were preparing to depart, their holds full of human cargo. She wouldn't let them take these people. Kara dove toward the nearest ship, building speed until the air around her ignited from friction. She hit the hull with every ounce of strength she could muster, and for a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then the metal, or whatever material they used, buckled inward. Alarms shrieked from inside the vessel as its mass effect fields destabilized. The ship listed, its tractor beams failing. Colonists fell from the sky, and Kara abandoned her attack to catch them, moving between falling bodies faster than the human eye could track. Even weakened, even struggling with powers that didn't work quite right in this strange galaxy, she was still fast enough to save them. The collectors adapted. 3 ships turned their weapons on her, firing in calculated patterns that boxed her in. Energy barriers, kinetic shields, she'd learn, absorbed the first blast of her heat vision. They were learning from every second of engagement, adjusting tactics to account for her abilities. Kara realized with cold certainty that she couldn't save everyone. Not alone. Not with her powers failing more with every passing moment, solar energy draining from cells that couldn't properly recharge in this universe's alien starlight. Then she heard the gunfire. A team of soldiers in armor she didn't recognize had entered the colony, moving with military precision. They engaged the collectors with coordinated fire, their weapons punching through the creature's barriers with rounds that seemed to ignore conventional physics. At their center was a woman in distinctive black and white armor, her face scarred but determined, calling out tactical commands. "Unknown contact, this is Commander Shepard of the Normandy. Identify yourself." Kara set down the colonist she'd been carrying and turned toward the voice. Commander Shepard, if that's who this was, had her weapon trained on Kara, but her eyes were tracking the collectors regrouping for another assault. "I'm here to help," Kara said simply. "Those ships are full of people. Shepard's eyes narrowed, scanning Kara's cape and the House of L symbol on her chest. No species match in any database. No visible weapons. No armor. You're punching through collector hulls with your bare hands. She lowered her rifle fractionally. Right now, I don't care what you are. Can you ground those ships? Kara looked up at the collector vessels preparing to jump to FTL. Her powers were fading, the unfamiliar stellar radiation of this system unable to sustain her the way Earth's sun did. But she had enough left for one more push. Watch me. She launched skyward, catching the nearest ship's underbelly with both hands. The metal groaned as she arrested its ascent through sheer strength, boots digging furrows in the air itself as she fought against mass effect fields trying to reduce the vessel's mass to nothing. For several impossible seconds, she held a starship in place through willpower and fading Kryptonian physiology. Then Shepard's team fired a coordinated rocket barrage into the ship's exposed engines. The explosion lit up Freedom's progress like a second sun, and Kara barely managed to catch the falling escape pods before they cratered into the colony. When she touched down again, depositing the rescued collectors, no, these were the colonists, freed from stasis, she found Shepard's entire team with weapons trained on her. Stand down, Shepard ordered her squad, never taking her eyes off Kara. Something tells me if she wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. She stepped forward, extending a hand. Commander Shepard, Systems Alliance Navy. And you just saved a lot of lives. Kara took the hand, noting the strength in the grip, the calculation in Shepard's eyes. This was someone who'd seen impossible things before and adapted. I'm Kara, she said, too exhausted to explain Kryptonian naming conventions. Kara Zor-El. And I have no idea where I am. Behind them, the remaining collector ships retreated through some kind of faster-than-light jump, taking their harvested humans with them. Kara felt the failure like a physical weight. She'd saved maybe 50 people. But hundreds more were gone, pulled into those nightmare vessels to destinations unknown. Shepard was speaking into her communications device, calling for pickup and medical teams. But her eyes kept returning to Kara, and in them, the last daughter of Krypton saw something she recognized, someone who'd learned that you can't save everyone, but you never stop trying. We need to talk, Shepard said. About what you are, where you came from, and what the hell you know about the collectors. She paused, glancing at the symbol on Kara's chest. Also, that's not any species designation I've ever seen. What does the S stand for? Kara looked down at the House of L crest, the symbol of hope from a world this galaxy would never know existed. In the unfamiliar sky above, a red sun was setting, the wrong color, the wrong spectrum, completely unable to sustain her powers. It stands for hope, she said quietly. At least, it did where I'm from. If you want to see more characters enter the Mass Effect galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. The galaxy remembers. Shepard studied her for a long moment, then holstered her weapon. Hope. Right. Come on, then. My ship's in orbit, and I've got a lot of questions. She turned to her squad. Miranda, prep medical bay for a xenobiology workup like nothing we've ever seen. This mission just got a lot more complicated. As Kara followed the commander toward the extraction point, stepping over fallen collectors and trying not to think about the colonists she couldn't save, she felt the full weight of her situation settle in. She was stranded in another universe, her powers were failing, and an enemy that harvested entire populations was out there right now, taking people to some nightmare fate. She'd come to this colony following a distress signal. Instead, she'd found a galaxy at war with threats she didn't understand, and a commander who looked at her not with wonder or fear, but with the calculating gaze of someone trying to figure out how to use an unexpected weapon. Kara had a feeling that hope was going to be tested in ways Krypton never prepared her for. The Normandy State Route 2 was unlike any vessel Kara had seen. Sleek, predatory, painted in colors designed to absorb sensor scans, it was a warship pretending to be a ghost. As the shuttle carrying Shepard's team approached the hangar bay, Kara watched the ship's exterior with enhanced vision, noting the weapon placements, the unusual hull configuration, and most puzzling of all, the complete absence of any visible propulsion system that matched her understanding of physics. "First time seeing a frigate?" asked the woman Shepard had called Miranda. She sat across from Kara in the shuttle, her posture relaxed but eyes sharp with scientific curiosity. "Or are you analyzing our weapons capability?" "Both," Kara admitted. There was no point lying when her eyes had been visibly tracking every detail. "Where I'm from, ships don't look like this. The technology is different." "Where you're from?" Miranda's tone made it clear she'd caught the phrasing. "Not where I was born or my homeworld." "You're saying you're not from this galaxy at all?" Kara met her gaze. "Would you believe me if I said yes? After watching you hold a collector cruiser in place with your bare hands?" "I'm prepared to believe quite a lot." Miranda leaned forward. "But belief and understanding are different things. Shepard wants answers, and so does my employer. You're going to medical bay first, then debriefing. Standard protocol for unknown contacts. And if I refuse?" Miranda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Then you're floating in space instead of riding in our shuttle." Commander Shepard extended trust on the battlefield. "Don't make her regret it." The shuttle docked with a pneumatic hiss. Shepard was already moving toward the exit, speaking rapid-fire instructions to her crew. A woman in red and white armor, Kara's enhanced hearing caught the name, Jack, muttered something crude about another weird alien before stalking off. A man in brown and yellow armor with a distinctive visor simply stared at Kara for a long moment before following Shepard. "That's Gurus," Miranda said, noticing Kara's attention. "Turian. Former CSEC officer, current headache." The colorful one was Jack, biotic convict. "Yes, Shepard recruits interesting people." "No, you're still the strangest thing to walk onto this ship." The Normandy's interior was a contradiction, military efficiency wrapped in corporate aesthetics. Everything was clean, organized, designed for maximum function. But there was also an underlying tension Kara recognized from her time with the DEO. This was a crew operating outside normal channels, answering to someone other than official command structures. Medical Bay was located on the second deck, a gleaming space filled with equipment Kara didn't recognize. A man in a white coat turned as they entered, his face lighting up with undisguised fascination. "Dr. Chukwas," Miranda said. "Our guest needs a full examination." "And Dr. Chukwas?" "Prepare for readings that won't make any sense." The doctor's eyes widened as she got her first proper look at Kara. "Good Lord. Commander Shepard mentioned you were unusual, but this is unprecedented. Please, sit. I promise this won't hurt." Kara settled onto the examination table, hyper-aware of how vulnerable she felt. Her powers were still draining, solar energy depleting with every minute under the Normandy's artificial lighting. The ship's systems hummed around her with an electrical signature she'd never encountered, Element Zero, that exotic matter, threaded through every system. Dr. Chukwas began with standard scans, and immediately frowned. "That can't be right. Scanners showing your cellular structure is unlike anything in the Citadel database. Not Asari, not Turian, not even remotely close to human despite your appearance. It's almost like your cells are drawing energy directly from electromagnetic radiation." "Solar energy," Kara confirmed quietly. "My body processes radiation from certain types of stars. It's what gives me my abilities. Photosynthesis on a cellular level." Chukwas's scientific curiosity warred with disbelief. But the energy requirements for what Commander Shepard described, the strength, the flight, that would require matter-to-energy conversion on a scale that defies thermodynamics. "Welcome to my Tuesday." Kara managed a weak smile. "Look, Doctor, I'll cooperate with your scans. But I need to know, what were those creatures?" "The collectors." Shepard acted like she'd seen them before. Chukwas and Miranda exchanged glances. The latter spoke first. The collectors are targeting human colonies across the terminus systems. They appear without warning, paralyze entire populations with some kind of seeker swarm, and take everyone. No survivors, no witnesses until today. We've been tracking them for weeks, but they're always one step ahead. How many colonies? Kara asked, though she dreaded the answer. 17 confirmed attacks. Hundreds of thousands missing. Chukwa's voice was heavy. Freedom's Progress was the first time we've arrived during an actual assault. Thanks to you, we saved 53 colonists. That's 53 more than anyone else has managed. The weight of those numbers settled on Kara's chest. Hundreds of thousands of people, taken by an enemy that moved like a hive mind and harvested humans like they were resources. She'd faced alien invasions before, stood against world-ending threats, but always with her full power, always with the JLA backing her up. Here, she was alone, weakening by the hour, and the enemy was already winning. The scans are fascinating, Chukwas murmured, adjusting her instruments. Your bone density is orders of magnitude higher than any known species. Muscle fiber composition suggests strength levels that should be physically impossible. And there's this unusual energy signature permeating every cell, decaying rapidly, I should note. You said you process solar radiation. What happens when you can't? I get weaker, Kara admitted. A lot weaker. The sun in the Freedom's Progress system, it was red, wrong spectrum. I could feel my reserves draining the entire fight. If this continues, she trailed off, not wanting to voice the fear that she might become completely powerless. Miranda's expression sharpened. You're saying your abilities are dependent on specific stellar radiation? That's exploitable. It also means you're not invulnerable, you're temporarily enhanced by environmental factors you can't control in space. Miranda, Chukwas warned. I'm being practical, Doctor. If she's joining this crew, we need to understand her limitations. Enemies certainly will. Miranda turned to Kara. You held off collectors long enough for us to extract civilians. That kind of power makes you valuable. It also makes you a target. Cerberus, my employer, has significant resources. We can help you find star systems that match your requirements. In exchange, we'd like your assistance with the collector problem. Cerberus. Kara tested the name. What kind of organization are you? The kind that gets results when the Alliance and the Council won't. Miranda's tone was matter-of-fact. Humanity is under attack, and the galaxy's governments are too paralyzed by politics to act. We're not. Red flags went up in Kara's mind. She'd heard similar rhetoric before from organizations like Cadmus and Lex Luthor's operations, groups that claimed noble goals while pursuing dangerous agendas. And Shepard works for you? It's complicated, Dr. Chukwas interjected gently. Commander Shepard died 2 years ago. Cerberus brought her back. She's hunting the collectors because they're the immediate threat, but she maintains her own moral compass. You'll find that out when you speak with her. The door opened before Kara could respond. Shepard entered, now out of armor and wearing a casual uniform that somehow made her look more dangerous, not less. Behind her came the Turian Kara had noticed earlier, Gurus, and a woman with pale blue skin and intelligent eyes that marked her as clearly non-human. Dr. Miranda, give us the room, Shepard ordered. Gurus, Liera, you stay. Our guest and I need to have a conversation about threats that harvest colonies and people who punch through starship hulls. As Chukwas and Miranda departed, Shepard pulled up a chair and sat backward on it, arms crossed over the backrest. The casual posture was deliberate, someone trying to appear non-threatening while maintaining complete control of the situation. So, Kara Zor-El. That's a hell of a name. Let's start with basics. What species are you, and how did you end up in the middle of a collector attack? Kara took a breath. I'm Kryptonian. My planet was destroyed when I was 13. I was sent to Earth, or what I thought was Earth, in an escape pod. But something went wrong during the journey here. I was tracking an anomaly, following a distress signal, and then reality just tore apart. Next thing I knew, I was falling through your atmosphere watching people get abducted. The blue-skinned woman, Liera, leaned forward with intense interest. Your planet was destroyed. How? And this Earth you mention, I assume you mean the human homeworld. I don't know if it's the same Earth, Kara admitted. Everything here is different. Your technology, your species, the way physics seems to work. Where I'm from, there's no element zero, no mass effect fields. We have aliens, but nothing like, she gestured at Gurus. Thanks, the Turian said dryly. I'm Gurus Vicarian. Former CSEC, current vigilante, apparently now first contact specialist for interdimensional refugees. Just for the record, you're not the weirdest thing I've seen since joining Shepard's crew, but you're definitely top 3. Noted. Kara almost smiled despite everything. Shepard held up a hand. Let's focus on what matters. You say you tracked an anomaly. Any idea what caused the dimensional breach? The distress signal came through frequencies that shouldn't exist. I followed it to a tear in space, dark energy patterns I've never seen before. When I got close, something pulled me through. Kara's eyes narrowed. That tear appeared near something you called a mass relay, didn't it? I saw it when I was falling, huge structure, ancient looking, generating massive amounts of exotic energy. Liera and Shepard exchanged significant looks. The relays are Prothean technology, Liera explained. 50,000-year-old structures that enable FTL travel across the galaxy. They manipulate mass effect fields to create corridors through spacetime. If one malfunctioned in proximity to your ship's drive system, it could have created a dimensional intersection point, Gurus finished. Great. So the collectors are abducting humans, and now the relays are pulling things from other realities. What's next? Reapers showing up at the Citadel. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Shepard's expression went hard. Don't joke about Reapers, Gurus. Wait, Reapers? Kara caught the reaction. What are Reapers? Another long silence. Finally, Shepard spoke, her voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen impossible horrors. Reapers are synthetic intelligences that harvest advanced organic civilizations every 50,000 years. The collectors are working for them. I've fought one. The council didn't believe me. But they're coming, and the collectors are preparing the way. Kara felt ice in her veins. You're telling me this is a harvesting operation? These collectors are working for machines that wipe out civilizations on a cycle. Welcome to the nightmare, Gurus said. Populations you, Shepard, and everyone crazy enough to believe her. Kara stood abruptly, needing to move. Then we need to stop them. Track where they're taking those people, shut down their operation, warn everyone. We're trying, Shepard cut in, standing to match her. But we're operating without council support, with limited resources, and every lead goes cold. That's why I'm recruiting specialists, building a team capable of taking the fight to the collectors directly. Which brings me to you. Here it was. The recruitment pitch. Kara recognized it because she'd heard versions before from Amanda Waller, from Maxwell Lord, from everyone who saw powers and thought, weapon. You want me to join your crew, Kara said flatly. I want you to help save human colonies from being harvested by synthetic monsters. Shepard's eyes were unwavering. You came through that dimensional tear for a reason, following a distress signal, trying to help. Now you're here, and people are dying. You strike me as someone who can't walk away from that. She was right, and they both knew it. Kara couldn't leave hundreds of thousands of people to whatever nightmare fate the collectors had planned. But she also couldn't ignore the red flags around Cerberus, the way Miranda had talked about exploitable weaknesses, the fact that Shepard admitted to working with an organization that operated outside legal channels. I'll help, Kara said carefully. But I'm not joining Cerberus. I'll work with your crew, assist with rescues, fight the collectors. But I'm not signing on to any organization that sees people as resources to be managed. Shepard's lips quirked in what might have been approval. Fair enough. I've got my own issues with Cerberus. You'll have quarters on the crew deck, access to our resources, and tactical briefings on collector patterns. In return, you help when we need heavy lifting, literally and figuratively. There's one more problem, Liara interjected. Your powers require specific stellar radiation to function. In space, surrounded by mass effect fields, you'll continue weakening. We need to either find compatible star systems or develop a way to sustain your abilities artificially. The elusive man will want to study that, Gurus said. Miranda's probably already writing the report. New alien species, powers dependent on stellar radiation, potential tactical applications. You sure you want to stay on this ship? Kara met Shepard's gaze. Are you sure you want me here? I'm unpredictable, I don't know your technology, and apparently your employer is going to see me as a lab specimen. The elusive man can want whatever he likes. This is my ship, my crew, my rules. Shepard extended her hand again. You saved 53 people today. You could have run, but you stayed and fought. That's the kind of person I need on this mission. So what do you say, Kara Zor-El? Want to help us stop an enemy that's been harvesting civilizations for longer than recorded history? Kara looked at the offered hand, at Shepard's scarred face and determined eyes, at Gurus and Liara watching with varying degrees of hope and skepticism. She thought about the colonists she'd saved, the hundreds of thousands she hadn't, and the Reaper threat Shepard described with absolute conviction. She was stranded in another universe, her powers were failing, and she was about to join a crew backed by an organization that gave her serious Cadmus vibes. Alex would kill her for this level of reckless decision-making. But Alex wasn't here. Earth wasn't here. The DEO, the Super Friends, everything she knew was impossibly far away, separated by dimensional barriers she had no idea how to cross. What she had was a ship full of people fighting impossible odds to save lives, and a commander who looked at her and saw an ally, not a weapon. Kara took Shepard's hand. Let's go save some colonies. The crew quarters assigned to Kara were Spartanly functional, a bed, a desk with a terminal, a locker for personal effects she didn't have. Through the viewport, stars streaked past in patterns that hurt to look at, the ship moving at faster-than-light speeds through something Joker, the pilot, had called a mass effect corridor. The physics were incomprehensible to someone raised on Kryptonian science, but the result was undeniable, they were crossing light years in hours. Kara pressed her palm against the viewport, feeling the faint vibration of the ship's systems. Her hand looked normal, but she could feel the difference. Lifting the bed one-handed had required actual effort. Her heat vision, when she'd tested it privately, took 3 full seconds to burn through a metal panel she'd found in the cargo bay. 3 seconds. On Earth, it would have been instantaneous. She was fading. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Liara, carrying a datapad and wearing an expression of barely contained scientific excitement. I hope I'm not disturbing you, the Asari said. I wanted to discuss your situation. I'm Dr. Liara Tsoni, xenoarchaeology and Prothean specialist, though I've recently expanded into information brokerage. Your arrival presents fascinating questions about dimensional mechanics and relay network capabilities. Come in. Kara gestured to the desk chair while she sat on the bed. Though I'm not sure I have many answers. Everything here is as alien to me as I apparently am to you. Liara settled into the chair with fluid grace, her movements carrying a subtle elegance that spoke of a species that lived for centuries. Let's start with what we know. You originate from a different reality where element zero doesn't exist and physics operates under different fundamental laws. Your species, Kryptonians, possess cellular structures that convert stellar radiation into what you describe as superhuman abilities. Is that accurate? Close enough. Kara appreciated the directness. On Earth, my Earth, I was functionally invulnerable, strong enough to move mountains, fast enough to catch bullets. Here, I'm maybe a tenth of that and dropping fast. The mass effect field interference, Liara said, fingers dancing over her datapad. Element 0 creates localized alterations in mass when subjected to electrical current. The Normandy systems, the relay network, even the kinetic barriers the collectors used, all generate overlapping mass effect fields. If your cellular biology is designed to process electromagnetic radiation in a specific way, these fields could be disrupting the molecular mechanisms. It was the clearest explanation Kara had heard since arriving. Can it be reversed? Possibly. We'd need to understand your biology better, which means extensive testing. I've already consulted with Dr. Chukwas and Mordin. He's our Solarian scientist, brilliant but eccentric. They're theorizing about biotic field dampeners or ESO-shielded environments that might reduce the interference. Liara paused. But there's another option. Miranda mentioned that your powers derive from stellar radiation. The Normandy's route takes us through several systems. We could plot courses that bring us closer to yellow or blue stars, stellar classifications that might recharge your abilities. That would help short-term, Kara acknowledged. But it doesn't solve the underlying problem. If I'm going to operate in this galaxy, I need to adapt to its physics, not just avoid them. Spoken like someone who's used to overcoming impossible odds. Liara's smile was warm. Shepard was right about you. You're not running despite having every reason to. I don't run when people need help. Kara met her eyes. Those colonists the collectors took, what happens to them? Where are they being taken? Liara's expression darkened. We don't know. The collectors disappear through the Omega-4 relay, which exists in an unstable region of space. Every ship that's attempted to follow has been destroyed by debris fields and gravitational anomalies. Whatever lies beyond that relay, the collectors don't want anyone reaching it. Then that's where we need to go. Eventually, yes. But Shepard is gathering resources, building the team, upgrading the Normandy. A direct assault would be suicide without preparation. Liara leaned forward. That's part of why your arrival matters. You represent an unknown variable, something the collectors haven't accounted for. In the right circumstances, that unpredictability could be decisive. Kara heard the unspoken message, you're a weapon we're counting on. It was pragmatic, honest, but it also reduced her to tactical utility. She'd dealt with that perspective before, from governments and organizations that saw Supergirl as a resource to be deployed. I'm not a weapon, Kara said quietly. I'm a person who wants to help. There's a difference. I understand. Truly, I do. Liara's tone softened. But in this galaxy, with the threats we face, sometimes being willing to help means accepting that others will see you as a weapon whether you like it or not. Shepard fights that perception every day. The Council sees her as a blunt instrument, Cerberus sees her as a puppet, enemies see her as a target. She navigates all of it while trying to do what's right. Is that why she works with Cerberus? Because they're the only ones willing to fight the collectors? Partly. Liara chose her words carefully. Shepard died stopping Sovereign, the Reaper that attacked the Citadel 2 years ago. Cerberus found her body, spent billions of credits resurrecting her through the Lazarus Project. She woke up to discover the Alliance had buried the Reaper threat, the Council dismissed her warnings, and human colonies were disappearing. Cerberus offered resources, a ship, and a mission. She accepted because no one else would act. That doesn't mean she trusts them, Kara guessed. She doesn't. Neither do I, and I'm not even part of the crew officially, I'm a consultant. But the collectors are real, the threat is immediate, and pragmatism sometimes requires uncomfortable alliances. Liara stood, smoothing her outfit. You'll find that moral absolutes are difficult to maintain out here. The galaxy has too many shades of gray. After Liara left, Kara sat alone with her thoughts. The Aseri's words echoed uncomfortable truths. She'd always operated with clear lines: protect the innocent, stop the villains, never compromise on core values. But here, she was being asked to work alongside an organization she didn't trust, fight an enemy she didn't understand, in a galaxy where her powers were literally fading away. The terminal on her desk chimed with an incoming message. Kara activated it, finding a text communication from someone identified as the Elusive Man. Miss Sorel. Welcome aboard the Normandy. Your performance at Freedom's Progress was impressive. Preliminary reports suggest combat capabilities exceeding any known biotic or synthetic enhancement. I'm pleased Commander Shepard extended an invitation to join our operation. Cerberus exists to protect humanity's interests in a hostile galaxy. Your assistance in this mission would be invaluable, and in return, we can provide resources to help you adapt to your new environment. Dr. Solis has already begun theoretical work on isodampening technology that might stabilize your cellular functions. I look forward to seeing what you're capable of when properly supported. Tim. The message was polite, professional, and set off every alarm Kara had developed over years of dealing with manipulative power brokers. The Elusive Man, even his title was grandiose, was already positioning her as an asset to be cultivated. The offer of help came with implicit strings attached. She deleted the message without responding. The ship's intercom crackled to life with Joker's voice: "All hands, we're approaching the Citadel. ETA 30 minutes. Shepard wants everyone in the briefing room before we dock." "That means you too, Supergirl." Kara blinked at the nickname. Someone had been doing research, or making assumptions based on her appearance and abilities. She pulled on the jacket Shepard had provided, emblazoned with the Normandy's emblem, and headed for the briefing room. The space was dominated by a holographic display showing a massive space station unlike anything Kara had imagined. The Citadel was enormous, a structure that dwarfed entire cities, with 5 arms extending from a central ring in a configuration that looked almost organic. Ships swarmed around it like insects, and even from the tactical display, Kara could see it was a hub of staggering activity. Shepard stood at the display's center, with Miranda, Pyrrhus, and a Solarian Kara hadn't met gathered around. The Solarian spoke rapidly, words tumbling over each other in a staccato rhythm. "Citadel arrival problematic. Council will have questions about new crew member. Unprecedented biometric signature, no genetic match to known species, demonstrated combat capabilities exceeding standard parameters. Recommend minimizing exposure, avoiding CSEC checkpoints, limiting interactions with Council agents." "Mordin has a point," Miranda said. "The Citadel has protocols for first contact with new species. Kara doesn't fit any of them. She's not representing a government, not here through diplomatic channels, and her abilities will trigger security alerts across the station. So we sneak her aboard." Pyrrhus shook his head. "That'll go great when someone inevitably scans her and realizes she's biologically impossible." Shepard turned as Kara entered. "Speak of the devil. We're discussing how to introduce you to the galaxy's seat of government without causing a diplomatic incident. Any preferences?" "I've dealt with intergovernmental politics before," Kara said. "Usually by being honest and letting people make their own judgments. Lying or hiding just makes things worse when the truth comes out." "Refreshingly naive," Miranda observed. "The Council consists of 3 species who've spent centuries perfecting bureaucratic stonewalling. Honesty is admirable but tactically unsound." "Unless the honesty itself is the tactic," Shepard countered. "We tell the truth. Kara is from another reality, arrived accidentally through a relay malfunction, helped us save colonists from collectors. We're not hiding her existence, we're presenting her as a potential asset in the fight against the collector threat." "Council dismissed Reaper warnings," Mordin interjected. "Unlikely to accept interdimensional refugee claims without extensive evidence. Will demand quarantine, genetic screening, cultural integration protocols. Process could take months. Collectors won't wait. Then we don't ask for permission." Shepard's tone brooked no argument. Kara stays with the Normandy crew, operates under my authority as a Spectre. The Council can file complaints all they want, by the time they finish debating, we'll have actual results. Kara appreciated the support but recognized the implications. Won't that damage your relationship with the Council? If they already don't trust you. They declared me dead and buried the Reaper evidence, Shepard said bluntly. Our relationship is already damaged. Besides, I'm not asking them to mobilize fleets or divert resources. I'm just refusing to hand over someone who might be the difference between saving colonies or watching them burn. The holographic display shifted to show the Citadel's docking procedures. The station was beautiful in its own alien way, a testament to engineering prowess and cooperative civilization. Thousands of species called it home, governed by a council that supposedly represented galactic interests. It reminded Kara of the United Nations, if the UN controlled the world's most powerful military force and made decisions affecting trillions of lives. There's another consideration, Gurus said. The Citadel is where information flows. If Kara's existence becomes public knowledge, and it will, every intelligence agency, criminal organization, and corporate interest will want a piece. Cerberus isn't the only group that sees value in unprecedented abilities. Already happening, Miranda confirmed, checking her data pad. The elusive man has flagged 3 separate intelligence intercepts mentioning Freedom's progress. The Blue Sun's mercenaries are circulating descriptions of a flying human female who destroyed collector ships. Give it another day and the story will be everywhere. Kara's stomach sank. She'd hoped for time to understand this galaxy before becoming its latest sensation. How bad is that? Depends on who comes looking, Gurus said. Best case, you get diplomatic overtures and scientific curiosity. Worst case, assassination attempts and kidnapping efforts. The Citadel has laws against both, but enforcement gets creative in the wards. The wards? Kara asked. Lower levels of the station, Shepard explained. Where the laws are more flexible. It's where we'll be operating most of the time, recruiting specialists, gathering intelligence, staying off the Council's radar. You'll fit right in with the rest of our crew of misfits and criminals. Criminals. Jack's wanted by 3 governments, Gurus is technically a vigilante, Kasumi is a master thief, Grunt is an artificially created Krogan supersoldier, and Zaid once led a mercenary company that committed atrocities. Shepard ticked off the list casually. I recruit based on competence and willingness to fight impossible odds, not legal standing. You'll meet most of them on the Citadel, assuming they haven't gotten arrested. The ship shuddered slightly as it entered the Citadel's mass effect envelope, the station's artificial gravity wells adjusting to accommodate incoming traffic. Through the viewports, Kara watched the massive structure grow larger, its scale becoming apparent as the Normandy approached docking berths that could accommodate vessels 10 times their size. One more thing, Shepard said, her voice dropping to a more serious register. The Citadel is where politics happen. You'll see species working together, but you'll also see prejudice, corruption, and bureaucratic cowardice. The Council sits in a tower making pronouncements while people in the ward struggle to survive. It's not like your Earth, wherever that is. There aren't easy answers here. Kara met her eyes. I've seen corruption before. I've dealt with politicians who prioritize power over people. It doesn't change what's right. Hold on to that idealism, Shepard said. You're going to need it. The Normandy State Route 2 slid into its designated berth with practiced precision, docking clamps engaging with magnetic finality. Beyond the airlock, the Citadel waited, a station of 5 million residents, seat of galactic government, and according to everyone Kara had spoken with, a place where hope went to die in committee meetings. She checked her reflection in a polished wall panel. The House of L symbol stood out against her outfit, a splash of color and meaning from a world this galaxy would never know. Here, she wasn't Supergirl, cousin of Superman, member of the Justice League. She was just Kara Zor-El, last daughter of a dead world, trying to figure out how to be a hero in a place that measured power in biotic amps and mass accelerator velocities. "Ready?" Shepard asked, already moving toward the airlock. Kara took a breath and followed. "As I'll ever be." The airlock opened, and the Citadel's atmosphere rushed in, recycled, temperature-controlled, carrying scents of 1,000 worlds and species. Beyond, a galaxy waited that didn't know her, didn't need her, and was about to discover that sometimes the impossible walked in wearing a cape and a symbol that stood for hope. Even if that hope was running on empty and fading fast. The Citadel's Zakara ward was controlled chaos given architectural form. Kara walked beside Shepard through corridors that stretched impossibly high, their walls lined with holographic advertisements in languages she couldn't read, their floors crowded with species she'd never imagined. A four-eyed being in rough clothing shoved past her without apology. Something that looked like a walking jellyfish drifted by overhead, bioluminescent patterns pulsing across its translucent body. Two creatures with insectoid features and thick carapaces argued in rapid clicking sounds near a storefront selling weapons that looked designed to tear through starship hulls. "That's Batarians," Gura said, noticing her stare. "Slavers, mostly. For eyes, bad attitude, hate humans. The Hanner, that's the jellyfish, are religious zealots who worship the Protheans. Try not to insult their gods. The Turians over there are probably CSEC, Citadel Security. They'll be watching us." "Everyone's watching us," Miranda added quietly. "You're not exactly inconspicuous." Kara glanced down at herself. The Normandy jacket helped, but her build, her features, and especially the symbol on her chest drew eyes from every direction. Whispers followed in their wake, some curious, some hostile, all speculative. She caught fragments with her enhanced hearing: new species, Shepard's pet project, Cerberus experiment. "I'm used to attention," Kara said. "Comes with the cape." "Yeah, about that," Gura said. "Most species don't wear capes. It marks you as either ceremonial, ceremonially insane, or compensating for something. Can't decide which one you are." "Ceremonially insane," Shepard said without missing a beat. "It's the only thing that makes sense for this crew." They passed through a security checkpoint where CSEC officers in distinctive blue armor scanned everyone entering the lower wards. The Turian officer's mandibles flared when his scanner passed over Kara, the device emitting a confused chirp. "Identification," he demanded. Shepard stepped forward, pulling up her Omni tool. "Commander Shepard, Spectre authorization." "She's with me." The officer's eyes widened slightly at the Spectre designation, but he didn't back down. Spectre authority doesn't override quarantine protocols. Unknown biometric signature requires medical screening and cultural integration assessment. Regulations are clear. Regulations written by people who've never seen a collector attack, Shepard countered. This woman saved 53 human lives at Freedom's Progress while your regulations were being filed in triplicate. She's an asset in an active operation against an enemy harvesting colonies. You want to delay that with paperwork? The Turian's mandibles twitched, uncertainty, Kara guessed. "I'll need to report this to my supervisor." "You do that. We'll be at Dark Star Lounge if anyone wants to file a complaint." Shepard moved past him, and the rest of the team followed. The officer didn't stop them, but Kara felt his scanner tracking her until they turned a corner. "That's going to come back on us," Miranda said. "Let it. We don't have time for Citadel bureaucracy." Shepard led them deeper into the wards, where the architecture became more utilitarian, the crowds rougher. This was the underbelly Gurus had mentioned, where laws were suggestions and survival meant knowing which rules could be bent. The Dark Star Lounge occupied a corner space with viewports overlooking the Citadel's interior expanse. Inside, the lighting was dim, the clientele diverse and universally armed. Conversations stopped when Shepard's team entered, dozens of eyes assessing threat levels and tactical implications. A woman in dark leather materialized from a shadowed booth, literally materialized, her form resolving from apparent invisibility. She was human, petite, with a hood and distinctive tech that seemed to bend light around her. Shepard. You actually showed up. I was beginning to think the collectors had finally caught you. Her accent was Japanese, her smile mischievous. And you brought friends. Let me guess, muscle, biotic, sniper, and, she studied Kara with open curiosity. Something completely new. Hi. I'm Kasumi Goto, master thief and incurable romantic. You must be the mystery woman everyone's talking about. Word travels fast, Kara said. Honey, word about you traveled at FTL speeds. There are betting pools on what species you are, whether you're a Cerberus experiment, and how long until someone tries to kidnap you for dissection. Current odds favor Batarian slavers making the first attempt. Kasumi's tone was light, but her eyes were serious. You might want to watch your back. The Citadel's safer than Omega, but safer is relative when you're worth your weight in platinum. Shepard gestured to a private booth. Kasumi, what did you find? The thief's demeanor shifted to professional focus. She activated her Omni tool, projecting holographic files. The collectors aren't just hitting random colonies. There's a pattern. Every target has specific population demographics, primarily human, established infrastructure, minimal defensive capabilities. They're selecting for something, and I think I know what. The hologram shifted to show genetic profiles. Each colony they've hit has higher than average genetic diversity. Lots of colonists from different Earth regions, mixed ancestry, varied biometric markers. They're not just harvesting humans, they're harvesting specific genetic templates. Miranda leaned forward, her expression sharp. Genetic templates for what purpose? That's the billion-credit question. But here's where it gets interesting. Kasumi pulled up another file. I hacked into a shadow broker data cache, don't ask how, and found classified council intelligence about Prothean experimentation. Turns out the Protheans were big on genetic manipulation, modifying species for specific purposes. The Rachni, the collectors themselves allegedly being modified Protheans, it's all part of a pattern. Kara felt cold spreading through her chest. You're saying the collectors are taking humans to modify them? Turn them into something else? Or use them as raw materials for something worse? Kasumi's usual playfulness was gone. The Protheans disappeared 50,000 years ago. The Reapers, if Shepard's right about them, harvest advanced civilizations. What if the collectors are building something using harvested organic material? Something that requires specific genetic profiles? A weapon, Gurus said grimly. Or a army. Or a Reaper. Shepard's voice was flat, but Kara heard the horror underneath. Sovereign was a single Reaper and nearly destroyed the Citadel. If they're building more using human genetic material, the implications hung in the air like a death sentence. Hundreds of thousands of people, taken not for slavery or resources, but to be processed into components of synthetic organic nightmares designed to harvest civilizations. Kara stood abruptly, needing to move. Then we find them. We track where the collectors are taking these people, and we stop it before. Before what? A new voice interrupted. Before Cerberus's pet alien causes an interspecies incident. A Turian in civilian clothing approached their booth, flanked by two Batarians whose 4 eyes gleamed with hostile intent. The Turian's stance was military despite the casual clothes, and his tone carried bureaucratic authority. Executor Paulin, CSEC Special Investigations, he announced. Commander Shepard, you're in violation of quarantine protocols bringing an unregistered xenobiological entity onto the Citadel. Your Spectre authority doesn't extend to endangering public health. Public health? Shepard's voice dripped sarcasm. She's not contagious, Paulin. She's a person who saved human lives while CSEC was filing reports. She's an unknown variable. Palin's eyes fixed on Kara. No genetic match in council databases, no diplomatic credentials, no species classification. For all we know, she could be a collector infiltration unit or Cerberus experiment. Either way, she requires medical quarantine and cultural assessment. Minimum 72 hours. Not happening, Kara said quietly. Palin's mandibles flared. That wasn't a request. CSEC has authority to enforce quarantine protocols for public safety. You can cooperate voluntarily, or we can escalate. The Batarian's hands moved toward weapons. Around the lounge, other patrons began casually repositioning, some moving toward exits, others settling into positions with clear firing lines. The air crackled with pre-violence tension. Executor, Kasumi said sweetly, have you considered that threatening someone who destroyed collector ships with her bare hands might be tactically unsound? I've considered that allowing an uncontrolled biotic anomaly to operate freely on the Citadel represents an unacceptable risk. Paolin didn't draw a weapon, but his posture shifted to combat ready. Final warning. Submit to quarantine, or CSEC will exercise escalation protocols. Kara met Shepard's eyes, reading the calculation there. They could fight. Kara alone could probably take everyone in the lounge despite her weakened state. But that would confirm every fear about her, turn her into a threat rather than an ally, and give the Council exactly the excuse they needed to shut down Shepard's operation. Stand down, Shepard ordered her team. Palin's an idiot, but he's not wrong about protocols. Kara, if you submit to medical screening, supervised by Dr. Chukwa's, non-negotiable, would that satisfy CSEC's concerns? Paolin considered. Medical screening under CSEC observation, cultural assessment by Council xenopsychologists, and a full debriefing about her origins and capabilities. Then we'll determine whether she represents a threat to Citadel security. Absolutely not, Miranda interjected. You're asking her to reveal potentially classified capabilities to Council intelligence. Cerberus has rights regarding proprietary assets. She's not an asset, Kara said sharply. I'm a person. And I'll agree to medical screening, but nothing that involves interrogation or forced information disclosure. You want to know if I'm dangerous? Dr. Chukwas can verify I'm not carrying diseases or weapons. But my capabilities and origins are my business. Unacceptable, one of the Batarians growled. Unknown aliens don't dictate terms on our station. Your station? Kara turned to face him fully. I thought the Citadel represented all Council species. Or does that only apply to the ones you approve of? The Batarian's hand went to his weapon. Gurisa's hand matched the movement, targeting solutions already calculated. The lounge held its collective breath. Then a new voice cut through the tension, amplified and carrying absolute authority. That will be sufficient, Executor Paolin. A hologram materialized above their table, a Turian in elaborate armor bearing Council insignia. Counselor Sparatus, if Kara remembered the briefing correctly. One of the three leaders of galactic civilization, appearing via quantum entanglement communicator to defuse a situation that had escalated beyond local CSEC authority. Commander Shepard, Sparatus said, his tone carefully neutral, the Council acknowledges your Spectre status and your right to recruit specialists for your operations. However, the appearance of an unknown xenobiological entity does require due diligence. We propose a compromise. Your specialist submits to non-invasive medical screening supervised by Dr. Chukwas and a Council medical observer. In exchange, CSEC withdraws quarantine demands and allows her operational freedom under your authority. It was a political solution, everyone saved face, protocols were technically followed, and the real issues remained unaddressed. Kara recognized it because she'd seen similar compromises from Earth's governments when dealing with powered individuals. With one addition, Kara said before Shepard could respond. I'll submit to screening, but I want access to Council archives about the collectors, relay mechanics, and anything related to dimensional phenomena. If I'm going to help fight these threats, I need information, not restrictions. Sparatus's mandibles twitched, surprise, maybe even approval. A reasonable request. Granted, with standard security protocols. Executor Paulin, arrange the medical screening and archive access. Commander Shepard, the Council expects regular updates on this situation. We may not agree with your methods, but we recognize the collector threat is real. The hologram vanished. Paulin looked like he'd bitten into something sour, but he nodded curtly. Medical Bay, Huerta Memorial Hospital, 2 hours. Don't be late. After CSEC departed, the lounge slowly returned to normal volume. Kasumi whistled softly. Well, that was exciting. You just negotiated with a counselor and didn't blink. Most species would be intimidated. I've dealt with worse, Kara said, though her hands were shaking slightly from adrenaline. Where I'm from, I once testified before the United Nations about alien rights. This was almost civil by comparison. Shepard studied her with renewed interest. You stood up to a council member in CSEC without backing down. Most people either defer to authority or get arrested. You found a third option. I learned from experience that authority without accountability is just power. And power needs to be challenged when it's wrong. Kara met her gaze. You said the council dismissed your warnings about Reapers. That they buried evidence while colonies burned. Why should I respect their protocols when they've already failed their people? You shouldn't, Shepard said simply. But you should understand the game well enough to play it. That's what you just did, gave them political cover to let you operate while extracting concessions that actually matter. Information about collectors and relays could be crucial. Miranda was accessing her data pad, frowning. The elusive man is requesting a debrief about the Citadel incident. He's concerned about council involvement in our operations. Tell him I'll report when I have something worth reporting, Shepard said dismissively. Right now, we have 2 hours before Kara's medical screening. Kasumi, I need everything you can find about collector sightings in the Terminus systems. Miranda, contact Mordin about preparing genetic analysis protocols. Gurus, you're with me, we're checking in with Bailey about smuggling operations that might have collector connections. The team dispersed with practiced efficiency, leaving Kara alone with Shepard for a moment. You handled that well, Shepard said. But you need to understand something. The Citadel plays by rules designed to protect the status quo. The Council species, Asari, Turians, Solarians, they've maintained power for thousands of years by controlling information, managing threats, and presenting a unified front. You're chaos to them. Unpredictable, powerful, and not part of their system. They'll try to contain you, study you, or eliminate you. Maybe all three. So why help me? Kara asked. You could have let Paulin arrest me, avoided the complication. Because I've been where you are, Shepard said quietly. Different circumstances, same feeling. When I warned the Council about Sovereign, about Reapers, they called me delusional. When I died stopping that Reaper and Cerberus brought me back, the Alliance declared me a traitor. I learned that sometimes doing the right thing means standing alone against everyone telling you it's impossible. She turned toward the exit, then paused. You said that symbol stands for hope. This galaxy could use some of that. Just be ready, hope is dangerous here. It makes people uncomfortable. They'll try to crush it before it spreads. Kara looked out the viewport at the Citadel's vast interior, at the thousands of ships and millions of lives orbiting in a structure built by extinct Protheans, maintained by species who'd forgotten that their entire civilization existed because ancient machines allowed it. Shepard was right, hope was dangerous here. It challenged the cynicism, the acceptance of cycles and harvests and inevitable extinction. But Kara Zor-El had worn hope as her symbol since she was 13 years old, had carried it across the stars from a dead world to a new one. She'd watched Krypton die and chosen to believe Earth could be saved. She'd faced gods and monsters and never stopped believing that tomorrow could be better than today. This galaxy didn't know it yet, but it had just gained something more dangerous than any weapon, someone who refused to accept that salvation was impossible. Even if that someone was fading, weakening, and had no idea how to get home. Huerta Memorial Hospital occupied one of the Citadel's upper wards, a gleaming facility that catered to the medical needs of dozens of species. The waiting room where Kara sat featured chairs designed for Turian, Asari, Solarian, and human physiology, though none of them were particularly comfortable for a Kryptonian whose cellular structure was currently being disrupted by omnipresent mass effect fields. Dr. Chukwas sat beside her, reviewing files on her data pad while they waited for the Council's medical observer. Across the room, a CSEC officer stood with studied casualness, ensuring Kara didn't attempt to flee. "Nervous?" Chukwas asked without looking up. "I've been through medical screenings before," Kara said. "Usually they involve a lot of confused doctors and equipment that doesn't work properly around me. I suspect we'll encounter similar issues here. The preliminary scans I conducted on the Normandy were fascinating. Your cellular structure resists most conventional analysis methods. It's almost as if your biology actively rejects external observation." Chukwas finally looked at her, eyes kind. "But that's not what's making you nervous, is it?" Kara glanced at her hands. In the hospital's artificial lighting, they looked normal. But she could feel the weakness spreading. "How long can someone like me survive without the right kind of solar radiation?" "That's difficult to answer without baseline data. If your abilities are completely dependent on stellar energy absorption, and you're currently depleting reserves without adequate replenishment," Chukwas paused, choosing words carefully. "Days, perhaps weeks before you reach baseline human equivalent capabilities. Longer before actual biological failure, assuming your underlying Kryptonian physiology remains stable. So I have maybe a week before I'm useless in a fight. Before you're unable to punch through starship hulls," Chukwas corrected gently. "There's a difference. Commander Shepard values you for more than raw power, your tactical thinking, your moral perspective, your unwillingness to compromise on core principles. Those don't require super strength." Before Kara could respond, a Solarian in medical whites entered at characteristic high speed, words tumbling out in rapid succession. "Dr. Chukwas, yes, good, punctual, excellent. Subject present, cooperative, promising. I am Dr. Palin, Council Medical Oversight, assigned to Xenobiological Assessment. Shall we begin?" The examination room was standard across most species: medical bed, scanning equipment, sterile white surfaces. Dr. Palin moved with barely controlled excitement, his large eyes gleaming as he activated various instruments. Preliminary visual assessment, humanoid configuration, bilateral symmetry, standard sensory organs, unusual costume design. External appearance suggests Earth-human, but initial scans indicate profound biological differences. Fascinating. He waved a scanner over Kara. Bone density 7 times human standard. Muscle fiber composition unlike any documented species. Cellular structure incorporating exotic energy matrices. How do you exist? Kryptonian evolution, Kara explained for what felt like the 100th time. My species developed under a red sun, then was exposed to yellow sun radiation. The different stellar spectrum triggers changes in our cellular structure. Red sun, yellow sun, stellar classification affecting biology. Intriguing. Most species adapt to environments through conventional evolution, thousands of generations, gradual genetic drift. You describe radical physiological transformation based solely on electromagnetic radiation exposure. Impossible by known biological principles, yet clearly occurring. Must revise principles. Palin's enthusiasm was almost endearing in its scientific purity. Dr. Chukwas smiled slightly. Dr. Palin is one of the Council's leading xenobiologists. If anyone can understand your physiology, it's him. Understanding incomplete, Palin admitted, studying his scanner readings. Subject cells contain energy signatures that don't match any catalogued phenomenon. Not biotic energy, different electromagnetic signature. Not synthetic enhancement, organic structures throughout. Not conventional metabolism, energy processing mechanisms foreign to all known biochemistry. You are, medically speaking, impossible. I get that a lot, Kara said dryly. The examination continued with increasing complexity. Blood samples that resisted conventional extraction methods. Tissue scans that couldn't penetrate her skin even with weakened powers. Neurological readings that showed brain activity patterns unlike any recorded species. Through it all, Palin maintained running commentary, hypothesizing about Kryptonian evolution, stellar radiation effects, and cellular mechanisms that defied conventional physics. Most concerning finding, Palin announced after 2 hours of testing, is progressive energy depletion. Subject's cellular reserves dropping at measurable rate. Current decline suggests complete power loss within 6.3 days if stellar radiation exposure not achieved. Afterward, baseline Kryptonian physiology should remain stable, but enhanced capabilities will be unavailable. Can you compensate? Chuck was asked. Artificial radiation sources, ESO-shielded environments, something to slow the depletion? Theoretically possible but practically challenging. Subject cells process specific electromagnetic frequencies, wavelengths associated with G-type main sequence stars. Replicating exact stellar output requires significant energy expenditure. Could build radiation chamber aboard Normandy, but power requirements would compromise ship's other systems. Palin's eyes brightened. Alternative solution. Plot course through systems with compatible stellar classifications. Yellow suns exist throughout galaxy. Subject could recharge naturally during missions. That limits our operational flexibility, Chuck was noted. The collectors don't restrict their attacks to systems with convenient star types. Then I fight at reduced capacity, Kara said firmly. People are dying. I'm not going to let power limitations stop me from helping. Palin studied her with his large eyes, head tilting in a distinctly non-human gesture. Admirable sentiment. Tactically unsound, but admirable. Have documented hundreds of species, studied countless biological adaptations. Never encountered one that prioritizes altruism over survival to this degree. Psychological profile suggests either profound cultural conditioning or genuine personality deviation from self-preservation norms. On Krypton, we believed in serving the common good, Kara said quietly. My family, we were scientists, explorers, people who tried to help. That's who I am, powers or not. Cultural values persisting despite species extinction, Palin murmured, making notes. Fascinating psychological resilience. Most soul survivors experience significant behavioral changes, isolation, paranoia, loss of cultural identity. Subject maintains core values despite being completely alone in unfamiliar reality. Remarkable. The words hit harder than Kara expected. Soul survivor. Completely alone. She'd been so focused on the immediate crisis, the collectors, her fading powers, the political complications, that she hadn't fully processed what her arrival in this universe meant. No way home. No family. No connection to anyone or anything she'd known. Chuck must have seen something in her expression. Dr. Palin, could you give us a moment? The Solarian nodded, already moving toward his notes. Of course, of course. We'll compile preliminary report. Subject cleared for Citadel operations, no contagions, no biological hazards, no threat to public health. Council protocols satisfied. Recommend regular monitoring, stellar radiation exposure, psychological support services. Medical assessment complete. After he left, Chuck sat beside Kara on the examination bed. Talk to me. I'm fine. Kara, I've been a doctor for 40 years. I've treated soldiers with PTSD, colonists who lost everything to pirate raids, and crew members dealing with impossible trauma. You're not fine. You're holding together because you have to, because people need you, because stopping means confronting things you're not ready to face. Kara's jaw tightened. What am I supposed to do? Break down crying while the collectors harvest more colonies? I came here by accident, but I'm here now. People are suffering. I have to help. No one's saying you shouldn't help. But you're also allowed to acknowledge that your situation is traumatic. You've lost your entire universe. Everyone you knew, everything familiar, gone. That's not something you just push through. I've lost worlds before, Kara said, but her voice cracked. Krypton exploded. I watched it die from my escape pod. I know what it means to be the last survivor. But you had Earth. You had people who became family, a planet that became home. Now you have a ship full of strangers in a galaxy with different rules, and your powers, the abilities that probably helped you feel safe, are failing. Chukwa's voice was gentle but unflinching. That's a lot to carry alone. Kara felt tears threatening and blinked them back angrily. I don't have time for this. Then make time. Because breaking down in the middle of a firefight helps no one. Chukwa squeezed her shoulder. Shepard maintains weekly sessions with our yeoman for psychological support. Even the commander knows she can't carry everything alone. You shouldn't either. Before Kara could respond, her Omni tool, the device Shepard had given her, chimed with an incoming message. She activated it, grateful for the distraction. The message was from Liera, found something in Council archives you need to see. Meet me at apartment in Tesseri Ward. Come alone if possible, information sensitive. Kara showed Chukwa's the message. Should I trust this? Liera? Absolutely. She's one of the few people in this galaxy Shepard trusts without reservation. Chukwa stood, gathering her equipment. Go. I'll file the medical report and keep CSEC satisfied. But Kara? Think about what I said. You're not invulnerable here, in more ways than one. The Tesseri ward was quieter than the lower levels, featuring residential spaces for the Citadel's more affluent residents. Liera's apartment was modest by those standards, clean, orderly, dominated by holographic displays showing archaeological data and information network connections. The Aseri herself looked troubled, fingers flying across multiple keyboards simultaneously as data streamed across her screens. Kara, thank you for coming. Close the door, please. What I'm about to show you is classified council intelligence, information I acquired through my role as an information broker. Technically illegal, but necessary. Liera pulled up a holographic display. You asked about the collectors, about where they're taking humans. I found something in archived Prothean data that council xenoarchaeologists have been sitting on for decades. The hologram showed a massive structure, organic and mechanical components fused together, geometries that hurt to look at, scale that dwarfed anything Kara had seen. This is a Reaper, Liera said quietly. Or more specifically, this is what preliminary scans suggest a Reaper's internal structure looks like. The data comes from wreckage analysis after Sovereign's destruction. What you're seeing is the fusion of organic and synthetic materials, living tissue converted into computational substrates, genetic material repurposed into processing cores. Kara felt sick. They're building machines out of people. Not just people. Every species the Reapers harvest becomes raw material for new Reapers. The Protheans became collectors, modified, controlled, used as tools for the next cycle. But some Prothean genetic material was converted into something else. Liera enhanced the image, showing corridors that looked disturbingly biological. The Reapers aren't just machines. They're the apotheosis of harvested civilizations, preserved in synthetic form. That's what the collectors are doing with humans, Kara realized with horror. They're gathering genetic material to build a human Reaper. That's my theory. And if I'm right, they need massive quantities of diverse human genetic profiles to complete it. The colonies they're hitting aren't random, they're selecting for maximum genetic variety. Liera pulled up another file. There's more. I cross-referenced relay activation patterns with collector attack timelines. Every attack occurs shortly after unusual dark energy fluctuations near dormant relays, fluctuations similar to what you described experiencing before arriving here. Kara leaned forward, studying the data. You think the collectors are using relay technology to create dimensional breaches? Not the collectors themselves, they're tools. But their masters, the Reapers. They've controlled the relay network for millions of years. If they can manipulate dimensional barriers, they could be pulling resources from other realities, other timelines. You might not be the first interdimensional arrival. You're just the first one we've detected. The implications cascaded through Kara's mind. If the Reapers could breach dimensional barriers, nowhere was safe. Not just this galaxy, but potentially infinite realities could be at risk. Every universe, every Earth, every civilization, all of them potential harvesting grounds for an intelligence that thought in cycles of extinction measured in epochs. Why are you showing me this? Kara asked. Why not Shepard? Because Shepard is focused on the immediate threat, stopping the collectors, preparing for the suicide mission through the Omega, for relay. She needs to be. But you? You're not bound by this galaxy's limitations. Your very existence here proves that dimensional travel is possible. If we can understand how you arrived, we might be able to exploit the same principles against the Reapers. I don't know how I got here, Kara admitted. It wasn't planned. My pod malfunctioned, dark energy pulled me through, and suddenly I was falling through your atmosphere. But your pod still exists, or its wreckage does. Shepard had it recovered from Freedom's Progress, stored in the Normandy's cargo bay. With your permission, I'd like to analyze it. The intersection of Kryptonian technology and mass relay manipulation might reveal something crucial. Kara thought about her pod, the last piece of technology from her universe. Letting strangers dissect it felt like losing another connection to home. But if it could help stop the Reapers, save lives, prevent other civilizations from being harvested. Do it, she said. Whatever you need. Just, be careful with it. It's all I have left. Liara's expression softened with understanding. I'll treat it with the respect it deserves. And Kara? You should know, you're not as alone as you think. This crew, Shepard's team. We're all people who didn't fit anywhere else. Ex-convicts, vigilantes, disgraced scientists, sole survivors. You'll fit right in. A proximity alert chimed. Liara's screens flickered red as her security systems detected unauthorized access attempts. Someone's trying to hack my network. Multiple intrusion vectors, sophisticated encryption, this is professional level. The Shadow Broker? Kara guessed, remembering Kasumi's mention of the mysterious information dealer. Possibly. Or Council Intelligence. Or Cerberus. Everyone wants information about you, and they know I'm researching dimensional mechanics. Liara's fingers flew across keyboards, deploying countermeasures. You should go. If they trace the hack here while you're present, it compromises both of us. Kara moved toward the door, then paused. Liara. Thank you. For the information, for understanding. For treating me like a person instead of an anomaly. In this galaxy, we're all anomalies in someone's database, Liara said with a slight smile. Might as well be anomalies together. Kara left through a side exit, using enhanced hearing to detect surveillance before moving. The Citadel's crowds provided cover, but she felt exposed in a way she hadn't since losing her powers the first time on Earth. Then, she'd had Alex, the DEO, people who understood her situation. Here, she had a ship full of strangers united only by their willingness to fight impossible odds. Her Omni tool chimed again. This time, the message was from Shepard, briefing in 1 hour. New lead on collector base location. Mordin has something you need to see about your power situation. Get back to the ship. Kara headed for the docking bay, navigating through crowds of species she was still learning to identify. Above her, the Citadel's artificial sky displayed a sunset that reminded her painfully of Earth, wrong colors, wrong intensity, but close enough to trigger homesickness that hit like a physical blow. 6 days until her powers failed completely. Hundreds of thousands of humans being processed into Reaper components. An enemy that had harvested civilizations for millions of years and saw organic life as raw material. And her, a refugee from another reality, fading by the hour, trying to be a hero in a galaxy that didn't believe in heroes. But the symbol on her chest still stood for hope. And as long as she could stand, as long as she could fight, she would make that symbol mean something here too. Even if hope was measured in days and powered by a sun that was impossibly far away. The Normandy's research laboratory was Mordin Solis's domain, a controlled chaos of equipment, chemical compounds, and data streams that would overwhelm most species. The Solarian himself moved through it at characteristic speed, manipulating 3 holographic displays simultaneously while conducting what appeared to be genetic sequencing on samples Kara didn't want to identify. Ah, Kara, excellent timing, very punctual. Mordin didn't look up from his work. Medical report from Dr. Palin received, reviewed, fascinating implications. Have been developing solution to solar energy depletion problem. Come, see prototype. Kara entered carefully, aware that every surface was covered with something potentially dangerous or incredibly valuable. Shepard stood near the back wall with Miranda and Jacob, another crew member Kara had met briefly, a former Alliance soldier with Cerberus ties. All 3 looked tense. What's going on? Kara asked. Mordin thinks he can stabilize your powers, Shepard said. But there are complications. Complications, yes, always complications. Mordin gestured enthusiastically at a device that looked like a combination of armor plating and medical equipment. Analyzed your cellular energy absorption mechanisms. Discovered mass effect fields don't directly block stellar radiation processing, they create interference patterns that disrupt energy storage at molecular level. Solution requires ESO-dampening field generator worn as personal equipment. Device creates localized space free of mass effect interference. Your cells function normally within field radius. He activated the device, and Kara felt something shift in the air, a pressure she hadn't noticed until it was gone. For the first time since arriving, her cells felt right. Not recharged, but no longer actively draining. The problem, Miranda said, her tone clipped, is that ESO-dampening interferes with other technologies. Kinetic barriers, biotic abilities, most weapons systems, all rely on mass effect fields. This device would protect your powers but leave you vulnerable to attacks that we normally counter with shields. Trade-off necessary, Mordin confirmed. With device, Kryptonian abilities function normally, but kinetic barriers non-functional. Without device, powers continue depleting, but standard defensive equipment operates. Must choose. Kara studied the device, understanding the implications. How long would it take me to recharge with this active? In proximity to yellow sun. Hours, perhaps days for full restoration depending on stellar output. In deep space without stellar exposure. Device prevents further depletion but doesn't recharge reserves. Still need actual solar radiation for energy replenishment. Mordin pulled up a star chart. Mapped compatible stellar systems along potential collector investigation routes. Can coordinate mission planning with solar exposure opportunities. Tactically complicated but feasible. There's another option, Jacob said quietly. We've been tracking a lead on a crashed starship near a yellow star in the Phoenix system. Pre-Alliance era vessel, military grade. Its power core might still be functional, could potentially be modified to emit radiation in the spectrum you need. Portable solar generator. Theoretical only, Mordin cautioned. Starship power cores designed for propulsion, not biological radiation therapy. Modification would require extensive engineering, materials not readily available, significant risk of catastrophic failure. Safer to rely on natural stellar sources. Shepard crossed her arms. How much time do we have before Kara's powers are completely gone? Based on current depletion rates. 5.7 days, Mordin said. Less if she engages in strenuous activity or combat. Each use of enhanced abilities accelerates energy consumption. Catch-22 situation, powers needed for mission effectiveness, but using powers hastens their loss. The laboratory fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Kara felt the weight of their gazes, calculation, concern, tactical assessment. They weren't looking at her as a person anymore. They were looking at a resource with a rapidly depleting shelf life. "I'll wear the dampener," Kara decided. "And we coordinate missions with solar exposure when possible. I'd rather have my abilities available when needed than lose them trying to save them." Logical, Mordin approved. Device still prototype stage. Recommend limited initial testing, monitoring for side effects, gradual integration into combat protocols. Will continue refinements, optimize field generation, minimize power consumption. May develop improved version with partial shield functionality if time permits. Time is exactly what we don't have, Miranda said, checking her datapad. The elusive man just forwarded new intelligence. 3 more colonies went dark in the last 48 hours, no distress signals, no survivors, complete population disappearance. The collectors are accelerating their operations. Shepard's jaw tightened. How many people? Estimated 15,000 combined population. All human colonies, all in terminus systems, all matching the genetic diversity profile Kasumi identified. Miranda's tone was professionally detached, but Kara heard the anger underneath. At this rate, they'll have harvested 1 million humans within the month. 1 million people. The number was almost incomprehensible. Kara had saved cities, stopped disasters that threatened thousands. But 1 million lives being harvested, processed, converted into components of synthetic horrors. The scale was paralyzing. Then we stop waiting, Kara said. We go through the Omega-4 relay, find their base, and end this. Suicide, Jacob said bluntly. No one's ever survived the Omega-4 relay. The debris fields alone would tear most ships apart. Whatever's on the other side, the collectors have protected it with barriers that have held for thousands of years. Not suicide, calculated risk, Shepard corrected. The Normandy's upgraded. We've got the best crew I could assemble. And now we've got someone who can punch through collector ships when she's fully charged. It's still long odds, but they're better than waiting while the body count climbs. Mission timeline requires preparation, Mordin interjected. Ship upgrades incomplete. Crew recruitment ongoing. Tactical intelligence about collector base layout insufficient. Rushing into Omega-4 relay without adequate preparation guarantees mission failure. Need minimum 2 weeks for proper preparation. 3 weeks preferable. 2 weeks is 30 more colonies at current attack rates, Kara said. How many people have to die while we prepare? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Shepard met her eyes, and Kara saw the weight the commander carried, the impossible calculations of acceptable losses, the crushing responsibility of choosing who lived and died based on operational readiness. As many as it takes to ensure we succeed when we go, Shepard said quietly. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I know. But if we rush in unprepared and fail? Every human in this galaxy becomes a target with no one capable of stopping the harvest. Sometimes you accept losses now to prevent extinction later. It was the kind of cold tactical logic Kara had always struggled with. On Earth, Superman taught her that you saved everyone, that no life was expendable, that there was always another way. But Superman had near unlimited power, instant global travel, and a solar system where his abilities never failed. Here, she had days of fading strength, no backup, and an enemy that operated across an entire galaxy. I hate this, Kara admitted. Everyone on this ship hates it, Jacob said. But we're doing it anyway because the alternative is worse. Her Omni tool chimed with an incoming call, priority encrypted, multiple security layers. Shepard nodded permission, and Kara activated it. The elusive man's hologram materialized, cigarette smoke curling around his distinctive eyes enhanced with cybernetic implants. He studied Kara with the calculating gaze of someone used to treating people as chess pieces. Miss Sorel. I've been reviewing reports of your Citadel activities. Impressive work managing council politics while maintaining operational independence. You have valuable instincts. What do you want? Kara asked, not bothering with pleasantries. Direct. Good. I'm calling because Cerberus has located something that should interest you, a Prothean facility in the Hawking Eta cluster that shows unusual dimensional energy signatures. Similar patterns to the relay anomaly that brought you here. If you want to understand how you arrived or potentially find a way back to your universe, that facility is your best lead. Kara's heart hammered against her ribs. A way home. Back to Earth, to Alex, to everything familiar. But even as hope surged, suspicion followed. Why tell me this? What's the price? The price is that you investigate it for Cerberus. The facility is heavily defended by automated systems, likely Prothean security still active after 50,000 years. We need someone with your unique capabilities to breach it safely. In exchange, you get full access to whatever technology is inside. Including, potentially, answers about dimensional travel. And Cerberus gets what? Shepard interjected, her voice hard. You don't do altruism, elusive man. What's your angle? Prothean dimensional technology represents a strategic advantage I'd be foolish not to pursue. If the Reapers can manipulate dimensional barriers, humanity needs the same capability. Miss Sorel's presence here proves it's possible. That facility might explain how. The elusive man took a drag on his cigarette. I'm offering a mutually beneficial arrangement. She gets potential passage home. We get access to technology that could change the balance of power against the Reapers. Everyone wins. Except the facility's defenses kill me, Kara said. That's the catch, isn't it? You need someone expendable to test the security. If I thought you were expendable, I wouldn't make the offer. Your abilities, even depleted, make you one of the few entities capable of surviving Prothean military-grade security. The elusive man's expression didn't change. But you're right that there's risk. There's always risk. The question is whether potential reward justifies it. Kara looked at Shepard, searching for guidance. The commander's face was unreadable, the practiced neutrality of someone who'd learned not to show her hand in political negotiations. I need time to think about it, Kara said finally. Of course. But Miss Sorel. Every day you wait is a day your powers fade further. Whatever you decide about that facility, decide quickly. Windows of opportunity close fast in this galaxy. The hologram vanished. Miranda immediately began typing on her datapad. I'll cross-reference Cerberus databases for information about that facility. The elusive man doesn't make offers without extensive preliminary research. If he thinks it's viable, there's something there. Or it's a trap, Jacob said. Prothean tech is notoriously dangerous. Half of it's booby-trapped or biologically keyed to Prothean genetics. Sending someone to breach it solo is a good way to test defenses without risking valuable assets. You think I'm not a valuable asset? Kara asked. I think you're powerful but unpredictable, and that makes you a wild card in Cerberus's long-term plans. The elusive man invests in certainties. Jacob's tone wasn't unkind, just matter of fact. He's giving you what you want, potential way home, in exchange for reconnaissance that doesn't risk his core operatives. That's how he operates. Shepard moved to the star chart, studying the Hawking Eta cluster location. It's not far from our current position. 3-day journey, maybe 4. We could investigate, assess the facility's defenses, make an informed decision about whether it's worth the risk. But that delays other operations. Every choice has an opportunity cost. More colonies, Kara said bitterly. Every decision ends with more people dying while we're somewhere else. "Welcome to command," Shepard said without inflection. "You make the best choices you can with incomplete information and live with the consequences. It never gets easier. You just get better at carrying the weight." Mordin cleared his throat. "Alternative proposal, divide resources." Shepard continues primary mission preparations. Kara investigates Prothean facility with small support team. Parallel operations reduce total time expenditure, maintain progress on multiple fronts. Tactically efficient if personnel allocation appropriate. "Who'd go with her?" Miranda asked. "The facility requires someone capable of breaching advanced security, providing technical analysis, and surviving potential combat. Limited personnel meet all criteria." "I'll go," a voice said from the doorway. Gurus Vicarian leaned against the frame, arms crossed, expression sardonic. "Someone needs to keep Supergirl from punching through walls that turn out to be structural supports. Plus, I've got experience with Prothean tech from our ILO's mission. And honestly, sitting around the Citadel while colonies burn was getting old." "Seconded," another voice added. Kasumi appeared, literally appeared, from apparently empty space, her cloak deactivating. "Prothean facility probably has security systems I can bypass. Plus, interdimensional technology sounds fun to steal. I mean, study. Definitely study." Shepard looked between them, calculating. Kara, Gurus, Kasumi, small team, high mobility, diversified skill sets. Could work. But you'd be operating without Normandy support. If something goes wrong. When has that ever stopped us? Gurus's mandibles flared in what might have been a Turian smile. Besides, someone should verify whether the elusive man's intelligence is legitimate or we're walking into a trap. If it's real, we get useful tech. If it's a trap, we trigger it with people who can handle themselves. Kara felt something loosen in her chest, not quite hope, but something close. She wasn't being asked to choose between finding her way home and helping the mission. For once, there might be a path that led in both directions. "Okay," she said. "We investigate the facility. But if it looks like a trap or the defenses are overwhelming, we abort. I'm not risking lives for my potential ticket home." "Acceptable parameters," Mordin approved. "We'll prepare equipment packages, medical supplies, technical analysis tools. Team departs in 6 hours. Gives me time to finalize ESO dampener, test field stability, configure for extended operation. Kara should wear device during mission. Prothean security systems often employ mass effect field manipulation. Dampener provides protection against such attacks." As the briefing dissolved into tactical planning, Kara found herself standing beside Shepard, watching crew members coordinate with practiced efficiency. "Why are you letting me do this?" Kara asked quietly. "You could order me to stay, focus on collector preparations." "Because you need to know," Shepard said simply. "You need to know if there's a way home, or if you're here permanently. Until you know, part of you will always be looking backward instead of forward. I can't have that during the suicide mission. I need everyone completely committed. So go. Find your answers. Then we'll face the collectors together, with no doubts and no regrets. And if I find a way home?" Shepard met her eyes. "Then you make a choice. Stay and help us, or go back to your universe. Either way, it's your decision, not mine. I don't conscript people. This mission only works if everyone's here because they chose to be." Kara thought about her Earth, about Alex and the DEO and everyone she'd left behind. Then she thought about the colonists at Freedom's Progress, about the million humans being harvested while she stood here, about a galaxy facing extinction that didn't even believe the threat was real. "I'll come back," she said. "Even if I find a way home, I'll come back to help finish this. The collectors, the Reapers, that's bigger than one universe. If they can breach dimensions, nowhere is safe. Not here, not home, nowhere." Shepard nodded once, satisfied. That's the answer I was hoping for. Now go pack. Prothean facilities are usually cold, dark, and full of things that want to kill you. Standard Tuesday for this crew. 6 hours later, Kara stood in the Normandy's shuttle bay wearing Morden's Ezo dampener, a surprisingly sleek device that ran along her spine like a silver vertebral column, its field generator pulsing with faint blue light. Her powers felt stable for the first time since arriving, no longer draining with every passing second. It wasn't a recharge, but it was a reprieve. Gurus was checking weapons with practiced efficiency. Kasumi was, somewhere, presumably already aboard the shuttle and invisible. And Kara was about to venture into an ancient alien facility that might hold answers about how she arrived or might be an elaborate trap designed to kill her. Just another Tuesday, she thought, remembering Shepard's words. The shuttle's engines hummed to life. Through the viewport, stars beckoned, thousands of systems, billions of lives, and somewhere among them, a Prothean facility that might explain how reality itself could be torn open and crossed. Kara took a breath and stepped aboard. Behind her, the Normandy represented preparation and caution. Ahead lay the unknown, the dangerous, and potentially the impossible made real. She'd faced impossible before. She'd watched Krypton die and chosen to live. She'd fallen through dimensional barriers and survived. She'd stood before galactic governments and held her ground. Whatever waited in that Prothean facility, she would face it the same way she faced everything, with hope, courage, and the absolute refusal to accept that some challenges were insurmountable. Even if that hope was powered by borrowed technology and measured in days. The Prothean facility existed in a place that shouldn't support structures, a moon orbiting a gas giant in the Hawking Eta cluster, its surface scoured by radiation and gravitational stress from the parent planet. The shuttle's approach revealed architecture that defied erosion, angular geometries that seemed to exist in more dimensions than 3, materials that neither reflected nor absorbed light conventionally, and an energy signature that made every instrument aboard the shuttle scream warnings. That's not normal Prothean construction, Gurus said from the pilot's seat, running sensor sweeps. I've seen plenty of their ruins on Ilos and elsewhere. This is different, more aggressive, more fortified. Looks like a military research facility or weapons development site. Or a prison, Kasumi added from somewhere behind Kara's shoulder, her cloak inactive inside the shuttle. Those energy signatures. That's containment field architecture. Whatever the Protheans were doing here, they really didn't want it getting out. Kara studied the facility through the viewport, her enhanced vision picking out details the shuttle's sensors missed. The structure descended deep into the moon's crust, visible only because portions had been deliberately exposed. Defensive turrets, inactive but still menacing, dotted the exterior. And at the center, a massive door bearing inscriptions in a language that predated galactic civilization by 50,000 years. There's active power, she said. I can see energy conduits running through the structure. After 50 millennia, something is still keeping this place operational. Prothean engineering, Gurus said with grudging admiration. They built to last. Unfortunately, that usually means their security systems also built to last. We should assume everything here is still functional and still lethal. The shuttle set down on a landing platform that activated as they approached, ancient mechanisms grinding to life after endless dormancy. The moment they touched down, holographic displays flickered into existence around the facility's entrance, Prothean text scrolling in rapid sequences. Kasumi activated her Omni tool, running translation protocols. It's a warning. Something about dimensional stability research, containment protocols, and, oh, this is encouraging. Authorized personnel only, lethal force authorized for unauthorized access. 50,000 years and it's still threatening trespassers, Gurus checked his rifle's thermal clip. I'm starting to understand why the Protheans went extinct. They were probably too paranoid to cooperate. Kara stepped out of the shuttle first, Morden's Ezo dampener humming against her spine. The moon's atmosphere was thin but breathable, the gravity lighter than Earth standard. Without the dampener, she might have felt nearly normal here, mass effect interference was minimal this far from inhabited systems. With the dampener active, she felt strong again. Not fully charged, but no longer fading. The facility's door was massive, 20 meters tall, 10 wide, covered in inscriptions that seemed to shift and change depending on viewing angle. At its center was a circular interface marked with symbols that might have been a language, a mathematical formula, or both. Security lock, Kasumi announced, approaching with her Omni tool extended. Biometric scanner, probably keyed to Prothean genetics. Without a living Prothean, we're not getting through conventionally. She glanced at Kara. Unless you want to try the direct approach. Punching through a 50,000-year-old door at a facility that might explain dimensional travel. Gurisa's mandibles twitched. What could possibly go wrong? Kara studied the door, her X-ray vision revealing layers of exotic materials, energy barriers, and mechanisms that seemed to exist partially out of phase with normal space. There's something else. Behind the door, maybe 50 meters in, there's a chamber with active energy signatures. Something's generating power, keeping systems online. If I damage the door's mechanisms, it might trigger facility-wide security. Alternatively, Kasumi said, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces, I could try bypassing the lock with a fabricated biometric signature. Prothean DNA sequences are in council archives from archaeological digs. Won't be perfect, but might convince the security system we're authorized. How long? Guris asked, scanning the perimeter for threats. 20 minutes if the encryption is straightforward. 2 hours if it's not. Kasumi was already working, her Omni tool projecting complex genetic sequences. Keep me covered. If defensive systems activate, they'll target me first. I'm directly interfacing with facility networks. Kara and Guris established a defensive perimeter while Kasumi worked. The moon's surface was desolate, but Kara's enhanced hearing picked up something unsettling. A low-frequency hum emanating from the facility itself, like a heartbeat. The Protheans had been dead for 50,000 years, but their technology still breathed. So, Guris said, breaking the silence, interdimensional refugee with fading superpowers. That's got to be a first for Citadel space. How are you holding up? Honestly? I don't know. Kara kept her eyes on the horizon, watching for threats. On my Earth, I knew who I was. Kara Danvers, reporter. Supergirl, hero. Cousin of Superman, protector of National City. Here, I'm just an anomaly. Someone who doesn't fit any database, doesn't belong to any species, doesn't have a place. Funny, that's how most of Shepard's crew feels. Guris adjusted his rifle's scope. I left CSEC because I couldn't accept their limitations. Kasumi's a criminal in most jurisdictions. Jack's a psychotic biotic. Grunt's an artificially created Krogan who'll never be fully accepted by his own people. We're all anomalies. That's why we work. Does it get easier? Accepting that you don't fit? Guris's mandibles flared in his version of a rueful smile. Not easier. Just more familiar. You stop trying to fit into categories others create and start defining your own. Shepard taught me that. She was the first human Spectre, first human to defeat a Reaper, first person to die and come back to fight another day. Nobody knew what box to put her in, so she made her own. I'm in. Kasumi announced triumphantly. The massive door shuddered, mechanisms engaging with sounds like tectonic plates grinding. Prothean security accepted the fabricated biometric signature. We're authorized for facility access. Which probably means we're about to trigger every trap they left for people stupid enough to break in. The door split vertically, segments retracting into walls with ponderous grace. Beyond lay darkness interrupted by strips of bioluminescent lighting that activated in sequence, illuminating a corridor that stretched deep into the moon's interior. The architecture was unmistakably Prothean, organic curves meeting geometric precision, every surface covered in inscriptions that might have been decorative or functional or both. Stay close, Kara said, taking point. I'll handle anything that tries to kill us immediately. Gurus, cover our 6. Kasumi, watch for security systems we can't see. They moved into the facility in tactical formation, boots echoing on floors that had known no footsteps for millennia. The corridor descended at a steady angle, taking them deeper underground. The bioluminescent strips pulsed in rhythmic patterns, not random, Kara realized, but sequential. Counting down to something. Defensive systems activating, Kasumi said urgently. Multiple targeting solutions online, tracking our movement. Whatever welcome the Protheans planned, it's about to. The corridor erupted with weapons fire. Turrets emerged from walls and ceiling, unleashing streams of projectiles that filled the air with lethal geometry. Kara moved on instinct, positioning herself between her team and the onslaught. The rounds hit her with forces that would have shredded armor, and even with the Ezo dampener stabilizing her powers, each impact registered. Without kinetic barriers to absorb the attacks, she was relying purely on Kryptonian durability. It was enough. Barely. Return fire. Gurisa's rifle cracked with precision shots, targeting turret control mechanisms. Kasumi vanished into stealth, her Omni tool working to disable systems while invisible. Kara grabbed a chunk of fallen ceiling material and hurled it at a turret cluster, her throw carrying enough force to tear the weapons from their mountings. The firefight lasted 90 seconds, an eternity in combat time. When the last turret sparked and died, Kara stood surrounded by scattered ammunition, her costume scorched but intact. The Ezo dampener had held, protecting her cellular functions while her Kryptonian biology absorbed punishment that would have killed anyone else. "Everyone okay?" she called. "Define okay," Gurus responded, checking his armor's integrity. "I've got 3 dents in my carapace and new respect for your durability. Those were military-grade mass accelerators, and you just tanked them." At reduced capacity, Kara reminded him. "With full powers, I wouldn't have felt them at all." "Show off," Kasumi muttered, reappearing with her cloak deactivating. "I've hacked local systems." "Good news, turrets are offline." "Bad news, that was just the entrance security. The facility has multiple defensive layers, each more lethal than the last. Whatever the Protheans were protecting, they really didn't want visitors." They pressed deeper, encountering more traps, floors that became electrified, walls that projected mass effect fields designed to crush intruders, chambers that flooded with what Kasumi's scans identified as weaponized nanomachines. Each challenge required different approaches, Kara's strength, Gurisa's tactical precision, Kasumi's technical expertise. They moved like a team despite having worked together for mere hours, united by necessity and the shared understanding that failure meant death in an alien tomb. Finally, they reached the central chamber. It was vast, easily 100 meters across, its ceiling lost in darkness above. At the chamber's center stood a structure that hurt to look at directly, a framework of crystalline material that seemed to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, flickering between configurations that Kara's Kryptonian mind struggled to process. Energy flowed through it in patterns that defied physics, creating regions where space itself appeared warped. "That's a dimensional stabilizer," Kasumi breathed, her voice awed. "Or a dimensional manipulator. Maybe both." The Protheans were researching controlled dimensional breaches, creating portals to other realities. Gurus scanned the device with his Omni tool, frowning at the readings. "These energy signatures match what we detected during Kara's arrival. If this technology was active when you came through the relay anomaly, it could have created the intersection point. The relay's dark energy surge plus this device's dimensional manipulation equals your ship getting pulled across realities. So this is how I got here," Kara said quietly, approaching the device. Up close, it was even more disorienting, surfaces that reflected nothing, geometries that seemed to fold through dimensions human eyes couldn't perceive. "Can it be used to send me back?" "Unknown." Kasumi was downloading data from facility terminals, her Omni tool processing terabytes of Prothean research. The files suggest the Protheans were experimenting with controlled dimensional breaches but never achieved stable results. Every test ended in catastrophic energy releases or dimensional collapse. They sealed this facility because the research was too dangerous to continue. But they didn't destroy it, Kara observed. They left it operational, powered, waiting. Because the Reapers were coming, Gurus realized. The Protheans knew they were about to be harvested. They sealed research that was too dangerous to complete but too valuable to destroy. They were hoping someone would find it after they were gone and succeed where they failed. A voice echoed through the chamber, synthetic, emotionless, speaking accented but comprehensible English, incorrect assessment. This facility was sealed because dimensional breach technology poses existential threat to organic life. Research discontinued by Prothean consensus. Unauthorized access detected. Containment protocols initiating. The chamber's lighting shifted to crimson. New weapons systems deployed from walls and ceiling, far more numerous than the entrance defenses. And at the chamber's center, the dimensional device began to pulse with increasing intensity, its energy patterns becoming erratic. It's destabilizing the device. Kasumi shouted over rising alarm klaxons. If that thing breaches containment, it'll create an uncontrolled dimensional tear. Could pull in matter from multiple realities simultaneously. This entire moon becomes ground zero for a dimensional catastrophe. Kara's mind raced through options. They could run, try to reach the shuttle before the facility's self-destruct completed. They could fight, destroy the weapon systems and hope that stopped the countdown. Or they could try something impossible, stabilize a dimensional device using technology 50,000 years more advanced than anything she understood, preventing a catastrophe that could potentially affect multiple universes. The Prothean security AI had said dimensional breach technology posed an existential threat to organic life. But it also represented her only chance of ever seeing home again. The device was destabilizing, becoming a weapon, but if she could somehow control it. Kara. Gurus grabbed her arm. We need to evacuate. Now. That device is going critical. She looked at the dimensional framework, at energy patterns that reminded her painfully of the tear that had brought her here. One chance. One impossible choice. Get to the shuttle, she said. I'm staying. What? No. Absolutely not. Gurus's grip tightened. You don't understand Prothean technology. None of us do. You can't stabilize that thing alone. I don't need to understand it. I just need to contain it. Kara gently removed his hand. My body processes energy in ways your species can't. Maybe I can absorb the dimensional breach, internalize it long enough for you to escape and the facility to seal itself. That could kill you, Kasumi said, her usual playfulness completely absent. Or worse, trap you between dimensions, scatter your molecular structure across multiple realities. You'd be dead in every possible way. Or it could work. Kara moved toward the device, feeling its energies wash over her like radiation. Her cells reacted strangely, trying to process dimensional flux as if it were solar energy. It wasn't, but the similarity was enough that her biology attempted absorption. Either way, you two need to go. Tell Shepard, tell her I tried. She's going to kill us for leaving you, Gurus muttered, but he was already moving toward the exit, pulling Kasumi with him. For the record, this is the stupidest heroic sacrifice I've seen, and I've watched Shepard drive a vehicle into a thresher maw. They ran. Kara waited until she heard the shuttle's engines ignite before approaching the dimensional device. Up close, the energy was overwhelming, reality itself bending around the framework, space-time becoming fluid. She could see into other dimensions through the device, glimpses of alien landscapes, bizarre physics, realities where the fundamental constants were different. And somewhere among those infinite possibilities was her Earth, her home, her universe. Kara placed her hands on the crystalline framework. The energy hit her like nothing she'd ever experienced, not solar radiation, not kryptonite, not even the anti-monitor's antimatter wave. This was reality itself flowing through her cells, trying to process exotic energy that existed outside conventional physics. Her Kryptonian biology struggled to adapt, cells restructuring to contain forces they were never designed to handle. She could feel the dimensional breach trying to expand, to tear open barriers between realities. She could feel her own molecular structure beginning to destabilize, quantum uncertainty making it unclear whether she existed in this universe or others. She could feel herself coming apart. But she could also feel the device responding. Her cellular energy absorption was creating a feedback loop. She drew power from the breach drew stability from her biology. It was agonizing, impossible, and absolutely insane. It was working. The alarms began to quiet. The energy patterns stabilized. The dimensional framework's pulsing slowed to a steady rhythm. Kara stood at the center of it all, a bridge between realities, her Kryptonian body doing what no Prothean technology could, containing dimensional chaos through sheer biological impossibility. Then the elusive man's voice echoed through her Omni-tool, "Impressive, Miss Zor-El, Cerberus sensors are detecting complete dimensional stabilization. You've succeeded where the Protheans failed. Now, if you could maintain that connection while our teams extract the technology." Understanding crashed through Kara's mind with terrible clarity. This was the trap, not killing her, but using her. The elusive man had known the facility would destabilize. He'd counted on her heroic instincts, her need to prevent catastrophe. Now she was locked in place, literally holding a dimensional breach closed, while Cerberus harvested technology designed to tear holes between realities. She tried to let go. The device immediately began destabilizing again, alarms shrieking. If she released it, the breach would expand uncontrollably. If she held on, she became a living battery for weapons research. "I know what you're thinking," the elusive man continued. "But consider, that device is your only way home. Cerberus can study it, perfect it, create controlled dimensional bridges. Help us, and we'll help you return to your universe. Fight us, and you're stranded here permanently while the breach kills billions." Kara felt tears of rage and pain streaming down her face. Her cells were burning, her powers depleting rapidly as the dimensional energies consumed everything she'd stabilized. She was trapped by her own heroism, by her inability to let catastrophe happen even when letting go meant freedom. Somewhere above, Cerberus ships were descending to the facility. Somewhere in this galaxy, colonies were being harvested. Somewhere across dimensional barriers, her Earth existed without knowing she was alive. And here, in a Prothean tomb that had waited 50,000 years, Kara Zor-El held reality together with her bare hands and wondered if hope had finally led her somewhere even she couldn't escape. The pain was unlike anything Kara had experienced. Not physical damage, her Kryptonian cells could endure that. This was existential agony, the sensation of being pulled in infinite directions simultaneously as dimensional energies tried to scatter her consciousness across multiple realities. She could feel versions of herself flickering in and out of existence, a Kara who'd never left Krypton, one who'd died in the pod, another who'd arrived on a different Earth entirely. The dimensional framework was using her as an anchor point, and maintaining that anchor was consuming her from the inside out. Cerberus extraction teams ETA 4 minutes, the elusive man's voice continued through her Omni-tool, maddeningly calm. "I understand you're in distress, Miss Zor-El, but your sacrifice serves a greater purpose. This technology could end the Reaper threat permanently. Humanity needs weapons that operate outside conventional physics. You're making that possible." "I'm not," Kara gasped, struggling to form words while her neural pathways fired across dimensional boundaries. "Your weapon. No, you're something better. You're a bridge. The first organic entity capable of interfacing with dimensional manipulation technology without immediate disintegration. Do you understand how valuable that makes you? Not just to Cerberus, but to every species facing extinction." Footsteps echoed through the facility's corridors, multiple sets, moving with military precision. The extraction teams. They'd secure the technology, study it, weaponize it. And Kara would be trapped here, a living component of machines designed to tear reality apart. Unless she did something unthinkable. Her X-ray vision penetrated the facility's walls, tracking the approaching soldiers. 12 Cerberus operatives in heavy armor, weapons designed for combat against biotic enemies. Behind them came technical specialists carrying equipment for dimensional energy harvesting. They moved with confidence because they believed she was trapped, helpless, unable to resist without killing billions. They were right about the consequences. But they'd made one critical miscalculation. Kara Danvers had spent her entire life making impossible choices, and she'd learned that sometimes the only way to win was to change the game entirely. "Gurus," she whispered into her Omni-tool, praying he was still in range. "How far is the shuttle?" Static, then his voice crackled through, 2 kilometers and climbing. "Why? What are you, Kara? Your bio signs are all over the place. You need medical attention immediately. I need you to do something insane. Come back. Land on the facility's roof. I'm going to disconnect from this device, and when I do, you have exactly 17 seconds before the dimensional breach goes critical." 17 seconds to do what? Gurus demanded. "Get me and this device off this moon before it explodes." Silence on the channel. "Then, you want me to fly back into a facility that's about to catastrophically fail, extract you and a piece of Prothean technology, and escape before dimensional collapse kills us all. Did I understand that correctly?" "Yes." Another pause. "Kasumi, strap in. We're going back." "Kara, you're completely insane, but you'd fit right in on Omega." 17 seconds, you said? Give or take. The Prothean calculations aren't precise. Kara could feel the Cerberus teams getting closer, could hear them coordinating extraction procedures. "Anchorus? I'm going to need you to shoot through the facility's roof exactly where I mark it. Clear a path for me to fly through. You want me to provide covering fire while you escape carrying an active dimensional weapon through a collapsing facility." She heard what might have been a laugh. "Shepard's going to love this story. Marking your location, preparing for precision bombardment. Hope your invulnerability's working because this is going to be close." Kara adjusted her grip on the dimensional framework, feeling it resist. The device had integrated with her cellular structure, treating her as part of its systems. Disconnecting would be like tearing off a limb, agonizing and potentially fatal. But staying meant becoming Cerberus's prisoner, a biological component in weapons designed to wage war across dimensional boundaries. The Cerberus operatives entered the central chamber, weapons raised. Their leader, a woman with lieutenant insignia, spoke through external speakers, "Secure the subject. Non-lethal force only. She's too valuable to damage." "Sorry," Kara said, her voice hoarse with pain, "but I'm not interested in becoming a lab specimen." She pulled. Reality screamed. The dimensional framework tore free from her cells with a sensation like her entire body was being turned inside out. Energy exploded outward in cascading waves, destabilizing every mass effect field in the facility. The Cerberus operatives' kinetic barriers failed instantly. Lighting systems overloaded. Gravity generators went haywire, sending debris floating in chaotic patterns. And the dimensional breach began to expand, cracks spreading through space-time itself like fractures in glass. Kara wrapped her arms around the crystalline framework. It was larger than her, awkward, its geometries designed for something other than humanoid handling. Her depleted strength barely managed to lift it, and when she did, the weight felt crushing despite Kryptonian musculature. The device was fighting her, trying to remain anchored to the facility's systems. 15 seconds, she counted aloud, staggering toward the chamber's exit. Cerberus operatives were recovering, raising weapons. She didn't have time for restraint. Heat vision lanced out, not to kill but to disable, melting weapon barrels, fusing armor joints, creating enough chaos that they couldn't coordinate fire. She crashed through them like a meteor, the dimensional device clutched to her chest, running through corridors that were beginning to tear apart as reality itself became unstable. 10 seconds. The facility's defenses activated in a last-ditch attempt to contain the breach, blast doors slamming shut, energy barriers forming, automated systems designed to seal catastrophic failures. Kara hit the first blast door with her shoulder, felt Kryptonian strength crack ancient Prothean alloys, burst through into the next corridor. Behind her, the dimensional breach was expanding exponentially. She could feel it pulling at her, trying to drag her back toward its event horizon. Her cells still carried resonance from the device's energy. She'd been connected too long, integrated too deeply. The breach wanted to complete the circuit, to use her as a dimensional anchor whether she was holding the device or not. 5 seconds. She reached the facility's main level, could see sky through viewports, could hear the shuttle's engines screaming as Gurus brought it into position directly overhead. The roof was solid Prothean construction, designed to withstand orbital bombardment. She needed an exit. Gurus, now. The shuttle's weapons carved molten lines across the roof, precision fire that turned structural integrity into liability. Kara didn't wait for the bombardment to finish. She jumped, still clutching the dimensional device, using the last of her fading strength to fly straight up through superheated metal and collapsing architecture. For one impossible moment, she was airborne on an alien moon, carrying technology that shouldn't exist, while a dimensional catastrophe exploded behind her and a shuttle dive-bombed through debris to execute the galaxy's most insane rescue. Gurus matched her trajectory with flying that would have made Joker jealous. The shuttle's cargo bay door was already open, Kasumi visible inside, arms extended. Kara hit the bay going far too fast, the dimensional device skidding across metal flooring, herself tumbling after it in a graceless heap. "Go," she shouted. The shuttle's engines roared, pulling them away from the facility at velocities that made Kara's inner ear protest. Through the cargo bay door, still open because they hadn't had time to close it, she watched the Prothean facility collapse inward, dimensional energies consuming matter and converting it to exotic particles. The moon itself began to destabilize, gravitational constant fluctuating as local spacetime lost coherence. Then they were clear, jumping to FTL before the cascade could reach them, leaving behind a moon that would soon cease to exist in any conventional sense. Kara lay on the shuttle floor, gasping, every cell in her body screaming with exhaustion. The dimensional device rested nearby, inactive but still emanating faint energies that made reality seem slightly blurred at the edges. That, Gurus said from the pilot's seat, was the single most reckless, idiotic, spectacular thing I've witnessed. And I watched Shepard surf a missile into a mass relay. Did we? Kara coughed, tasting copper. Did we get the device? Got it, got you, got away clean. Cerberus is going to be furious. Kasumi knelt beside her, running medical scans. But your biosigns are critical. Whatever that thing did to you, it's not good. Cellular structure is fluctuating between stable states, neural activity is spiking across abnormal frequencies, and, wait, that can't be right. What? Kara forced herself to sit up, though the movement made the shuttle spin. Your cells are still processing dimensional energy. Like background radiation, but from other realities. You didn't just disconnect from the device, you internalized part of its function. Kasumi's eyes were wide behind her hood. Kara, you might have just become a living dimensional bridge. A biological gateway between universes. The implications hit like a shockwave. She'd wanted answers about how to get home. Instead, she'd become the answer, transformed by Prothean technology into something new, something that existed partially outside conventional reality. She could feel it now, once Kasumi pointed it out, awareness of other dimensions layering over this one, faint but present. Versions of space that occupied the same coordinates but different quantum states. Can it be reversed? She asked quietly. Unknown. This is beyond anything in Council medical databases. You're literally unprecedented, an organic entity processing dimensional variance at the cellular level. Kasumi checked her scans again. But here's the thing, this might stabilize your powers. If your cells are drawing energy from dimensional flux instead of solely stellar radiation, the mass effect interference might not matter anymore. You could be adapting to this galaxy's physics through the worst possible method. Adapting by becoming part Prothean technology. Part dimensional anomaly, Kasumi corrected. The technology just catalyzed the transformation. Your Kryptonian biology did the rest, same way it adapted to Earth's yellow sun. Except this time, you're adapting to reality itself. Gurus set the shuttle's autopilot and turned in his seat. The elusive man knew this would happen. That's why he sent you to that facility. He wasn't just trying to capture you, he was trying to transform you into something Cerberus could study. A dimensional bridge in humanoid form. But we have the device, Kara said, looking at the crystalline framework. Cerberus wanted this, and we took it. That's leverage. Or a declaration of war, Gurus countered. The elusive man doesn't tolerate assets being stolen. We just became enemies of the most powerful human organization in the galaxy. He paused. Shepard's going to have opinions about this. The shuttle's comm system activated, and as if summoned by mention of her name, Commander Shepard's voice filled the cabin. Gurus, Kasumi, Kara, status report. Cerberus is flooding communication channels claiming you destroyed a Prothean research facility and stole classified technology. The elusive man is demanding I remand you to Cerberus custody. I need to know what actually happened before I tell him where he can stick his demands. Kara hauled herself to her feet, gripping a support rail as the shuttle's motion made her head swim. Commander, the elusive man lied to us. That facility wasn't a potential way home, it was a trap designed to transform me into a living dimensional weapon. We barely escaped, and now I'm changed. I don't know exactly what I am anymore. Silence on the channel. Then, changed how? My cells are processing dimensional energy. I can feel other realities overlapping this one. The Prothean device integrated with my biology somehow. I'm still Kryptonian, still me, but I'm also something else now. Something that exists partially outside normal spacetime. More silence. When Shepard spoke again, her tone was carefully controlled. Can you still fight? Yes. Maybe better than before, once I figure out what I can do now. Good. Because the collectors just hit 4 more colonies simultaneously, coordinated attacks across multiple systems. They're changing tactics, moving faster. We need every advantage we can get. If you've become something that can operate outside conventional physics, that's an advantage. Shepard paused. But Kara, if this transformation is dangerous, to you or others, I need to know. Kara thought about the awareness of other dimensions, the strange energies flowing through cells that had already survived one radical transformation when leaving Krypton. She thought about Cerberus gunning for them, the collectors harvesting colonies, reapers waiting in dark space to harvest civilizations. I'm dangerous, she admitted. To the right enemies. The question is whether I can control it. Then we find out, Shepard said decisively. Return to the Normandy. We've got work to do, and apparently we've just made an enemy of Cerberus in addition to the collectors and reapers. Mordin will want to examine you immediately. And Kara? That was good work. Risky, arguably insane, but good. You're fitting in with this crew perfectly. The channel closed. Gurus exchanged glances with Kasumi, then turned to Kara. You know what this means. The elusive man used us to test technology he couldn't risk on his own people. Shepard's been operating under Cerberus funding and resources, but that relationship just became complicated. We might have just triggered a 3-way war, Normandy versus Collectors versus Cerberus. 4-way if the Council gets involved, Kasumi added. We stole Prothean technology from an active research site. That violates about 17 Citadel regulations, most of them carrying life imprisonment sentences. Kara looked at the dimensional device, at her hands that no longer felt entirely like her own, at the stars streaming past the viewport that might be from this reality or others bleeding through her altered perception. She'd come to this galaxy by accident, seeking answers about how to get home. Instead, she'd become a living doorway, proof that boundaries between realities could be crossed, that the impossible was just physics waiting to be understood. The Reapers thought they controlled the cycle, that organic life could be harvested and preserved in synthetic form. But they'd never encountered something like her, someone who existed in multiple states simultaneously, who'd been transformed by the very technology they'd built to control dimensional access. "Let them come," she said quietly. "Cerberus, Council, whoever. I'm done being used. From now on, I choose my battles. And I'm choosing to fight with Shepard's crew to stop the Collectors, save those colonists, and show this galaxy that hope isn't just a symbol, it's a weapon." Gurus's mandibles flared in approval. "Now that's the kind of crazy I can work with. Welcome to the Normandy, Supergirl. We specialize in impossible odds and telling authority figures to shove it." The shuttle jumped back to FTL, carrying them toward the Normandy, toward Shepard and a crew of misfits, toward a suicide mission through a relay that killed everyone who tried it. Kara closed her eyes and felt the dimensional energies flowing through her cells, felt the boundaries between realities that she now existed across. She'd wanted answers. Instead, she'd become the question, a challenge to every certainty about what was possible, about the boundaries between universes, about the limits of transformation and adaptation. The Collectors were building a Reaper from human genetic material. But they'd never factored in a variable like Kara Zor-El, someone who'd already died once when Krypton exploded, already been reborn when yellow sun radiation transformed her, and now was being reborn again as something that transcended the limitations of any single reality. Let the Reapers calculate that in their ancient equations. Let Cerberus try to weaponize what they couldn't understand. Let the galaxy decide what to make of a refugee who'd become a bridge between worlds. Kara was done being defined by what she'd lost. From now on, she'd be defined by what she chose to protect, across every reality, through any dimension, against any threat that thought extinction was inevitable. Starting with a suicide mission that no one had ever survived. Because if there was one thing Kara Zor-El had learned from a lifetime of impossible challenges, it was this: the moment everyone says something can't be done is exactly when you prove them wrong. The Normandy's war room was silent except for the holographic display showing the Omega-4 relay, a structure that existed in a region of space so unstable that conventional navigation was suicide. Shepard stood at the display's center, surrounded by her assembled crew. Everyone was present, Miranda and Jacob representing Cerberus interests that had become increasingly strained. Gurus and his sniper rifle. Kasumi in her hooded cloak. Mordin, muttering calculations. Grunt, the Krogan tank-bred super soldier. Jack, the tattooed biotic whose criminal record filled databases. Samara, the Aseri Justicar bound by ancient codes. Thane, the dying Drell assassin seeking redemption. Tali, the Quarian engineer. Legion, the Geth platform that had defied its entire species to help organics. And Kara, standing slightly apart, still adjusting to cells that process dimensional variants like others breathed oxygen. "The collector base is through that relay," Shepard said, her voice carrying absolute certainty. "Every human they've taken, hundreds of thousands of colonists, are being held there or worse. Intelligence from the elusive man, cross-referenced with data Kara recovered from the Prothean facility, suggests they're building something. A Reaper. Using human genetic material as raw components." The hologram shifted, showing schematics that made Kara's stomach turn. A massive structure, vaguely humanoid in configuration, constructed from harvested organic matter converted into synthetic processing cores. Millions of humans, reduced to building blocks for a machine designed to harvest civilizations. "That's obscene," Tali said, her voice tight through her environmental suit's modulator. "They're not just killing people, they're erasing them. Turning them into tools for their own destruction." Protheans became collectors, Legion noted, its synthetic voice devoid of emotion. Reapers repurpose organic civilizations. This unit calculates similar fate awaits humans if collector operations continue. Probability of species survival without intervention, 0.03%. Which is why we're going through that relay, Shepard continued. Full crew commitment. This is the suicide mission everyone's been whispering about. No one survived passage through the Omega-4 relay. The debris fields alone would tear apart any conventional vessel. But the Normandy isn't conventional. We've upgraded armor, shielding, weapons systems. And we have assets the collectors don't expect. Her eyes found Kara. Including someone who apparently now exists partially outside normal space-time. Mordin, want to explain what you've discovered? The Solarian scientist practically vibrated with scientific enthusiasm. Fascinating developments. Examined Kara's post-transformation physiology. Cellular structure incorporates dimensional flux at quantum level. Can perceive and potentially interact with multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Practical applications, ability to phase through matter by shifting dimensional alignment, survive environments that would kill conventional organics, possibly transport objects or people across dimensional boundaries. Limitations, energy requirements massive, control requires practice, full capabilities unknown. You're saying she can walk through walls? Jack asked, sounding impressed despite herself. Oversimplification but essentially correct. Can shift partially out of phase with conventional matter. Requires significant energy expenditure, currently unreliable. Mordin pulled up medical scans showing Kara's cellular structure flickering between stable states. Also possesses enhanced resistance to mass effect manipulation. Dimensional variance make standard biotic attacks less effective. Reapers rely heavily on mass effect technology. Subject represents unprecedented tactical advantage. Assuming I can control it, Kara interjected. I've been practicing since we left the Prothean facility. Sometimes I can phase through objects. Other times I just walk into walls like a normal person. It's not exactly reliable in combat. Then we don't rely on it as primary tactic, Shepard said pragmatically. Your strength, durability, and heat vision still function. The dimensional abilities are bonus options if opportunities present. We plan for what we know works, adapt to what becomes possible. Miranda activated her Omni tool, projecting tactical overlays. The collector base will be heavily defended, Oculus drones, collector soldiers, Harbinger-possessed units, possibly Praetorians and Scions. Standard engagement protocols won't suffice. We need specialized teams, tech specialists to bypass security, biotics to handle enemy forces, heavy weapons to breach fortifications. And someone nearly invulnerable to spearhead assaults. That's where I come in, Kara said. She'd been thinking about this since the briefing began. I'll lead the initial assault. Draw fire, create openings, handle the heaviest resistance. My powers are stabilizing, not back to full capacity, but enough to matter. And if the dimensional phasing works, I can reach areas others can't. Unacceptable, Miranda said immediately. You're an unknown variable with unpredictable capabilities. Basing mission success on untested abilities is tactically unsound. So is waiting while more colonies burn, Kara countered. You said it yourself, the collectors are accelerating operations. For simultaneous attacks last week. How many this week? How many next? Every day we delay is another 1,000 people being processed into Reaper components. She's right, Gura said, checking his rifle for the 100th time. We've prepared as much as possible. The Normandy's upgraded, the team is assembled, intelligence is gathered. We're not getting more ready by waiting. We go now, or we accept that we're choosing preparation over lives. Shepard studied the Omega-4 relay projection, her expression unreadable. This was the moment that defined leadership, choosing between perfect preparation and necessary action, between minimizing risk and accepting that some risks were unavoidable. We go in 24 hours, she decided. Final equipment checks, personal preparations, shore leave for anyone who wants it. When we launch, we're committed. No turning back, no rescue if things go wrong. Everyone in this room needs to accept that this might be a one-way trip. It won't be, Kara said with conviction she didn't entirely feel. We're going to save those colonists, destroy the collector base, and make it back. Because the alternative is accepting that the Reapers win. That 50,000 years of cycles continue. That organic life is just raw material for synthetic gods. I refuse to accept that. Inspiring speech, Jack drawled. But let's be real, we're probably all going to die horribly. I'm okay with that if we take those collector bastards down with us. Agreed, Grunt rumbled. A good death in worthy combat. Clan Erdnot will remember. This Geth platform does not fear termination, Legion said. But prefers survival. We'll execute assigned functions to maximize mission success probability. Around the table, crew members nodded, some enthusiastically, others grimly, all accepting the reality that they were about to attempt something that had killed every previous attempt. Dismissed, Shepard ordered. Personal time until launch. Speak with loved ones if you have them, settle affairs if necessary. Make peace with whatever you need to make peace with. When we board the Normandy tomorrow, we become a weapon aimed at the heart of a Reaper harvesting operation. There's no room for doubt after we launch. The crew dispersed, leaving Kara alone with Shepard in the war room. The commander deactivated the holographic display, studying Kara with an intensity that felt like being scanned. You're planning something, Shepard said. Not a question. I'm planning to use every advantage we have, Kara replied carefully. Including ones we haven't fully explored. The dimensional phasing. You think you can use it to bypass collector defenses, reach critical systems before they can respond. I think it's possible. If I can control it, if the energy requirements aren't too high, if my biology cooperates, yes. I could potentially phase through barriers, access secured areas, sabotage infrastructure from inside their own strongholds. Shepard was quiet for a long moment. That's also a good way to get yourself killed. Phasing through matter while your powers are still unreliable. You could materialize inside solid walls, or halfway between dimensions, or scattered across quantum states. Morden's scans showed your cellular structure fluctuating unpredictably. I know the risks. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you've been in this galaxy for what, 2 weeks? You've lost your powers, been transformed by Prothean technology, made enemies of Cerberus, and now you're volunteering for the most dangerous role in a suicide mission. That's either incredible courage or a death wish. I need to know which. Kara met her eyes. When Krypton died, I was in an escape pod watching my entire world explode. Everyone I knew, everything I'd ever experienced, gone. I survived by accident, by luck, by a pod that was supposed to follow my cousins but didn't. I spent years feeling guilty for surviving when billions died. Survivor's guilt, Shepard said quietly. I know it well. Then you understand. I can't change what happened to Krypton. But I can prevent it from happening here. The Reapers are doing to this galaxy what happened to my world, extinction on an unimaginable scale. If I have powers, if I have abilities that might make the difference, I use them. That's not a death wish. That's refusing to stand by while another civilization dies. Shepard studied her for another moment, then nodded. Good answer. But Kara. Martyrdom doesn't save people, competence and preparation do. Your heroic instincts are admirable. Make sure they don't get you killed before you can be useful. Is that what you do? Balance heroism with pragmatism. Every day. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't make for inspiring speeches. But it keeps my crew alive longer than pure heroism would. Shepard moved toward the door, then paused. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we find out if impossible odds are just statistics waiting to be disproven. After Shepard left, Kara remained in the war room, staring at the deactivated holographic projector. In 24 hours, they'd launch toward the Omega-4 relay. Beyond it lay the collector base, hundreds of thousands of captive humans, and enemies that had been harvesting civilizations since before humanity existed. Her Omni tool chimed, a personal message from an encrypted source. Kara opened it, finding text that made her blood run cold. Miss Zor-El. Impressive performance at the Prothean facility. You've exceeded expectations, not just surviving the dimensional integration, but thriving with it. The transformation makes you more valuable, not less. Understand that Cerberus's resources extend everywhere. On the Normandy, on the Citadel, even among Shepard's crew. We're not enemies, we're investors who've lost track of a valuable asset. Help us recover our investment, and we'll help you master your new abilities. Refuse, and you'll discover how limited protection Commander Shepard can actually provide. Consider this generous offer carefully. The collector base holds more than captive humans. It holds technology that could end the Reaper threat permanently. Don't let Shepard's moral absolutism destroy humanity's best chance at survival. The elusive man. Kara deleted the message, but its implications lingered. Cerberus had infiltrated the crew. At least one person aboard the Normandy was reporting to the elusive man. Every conversation, every plan, every preparation was potentially compromised. And the threat was clear: cooperate or face consequences that Shepard couldn't prevent. She pulled up her Omni tool's scanning functions, equipment Mordin had modified to detect dimensional variance. Around her, reality flickered with subtle distortions. She could see them now, the places where dimensions overlapped, where quantum probability became tangible. With concentration, she could feel the barriers between states, could sense how to shift her molecular structure to occupy different dimensional configurations. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. She'd been transformed once before, from Kryptonian child to Earth's protector, powered by yellow sun radiation that rewrote her cellular potential. Now she was transforming again, becoming something that existed across dimensional boundaries, something the Protheans had tried to create and the Reapers had never anticipated. Kara closed her eyes and focused, willing her body to shift. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality became fluid, her hand passed through the holographic projector's solid console as if it wasn't there. She was partially out of phase, existing in a quantum state between dimensions. The sensation was nauseating, but she held it for 5 seconds before her concentration broke and she snapped back to conventional matter. 5 seconds. Not enough for combat applications, not reliable enough to stake mission success on. But it was progress. If she could extend it to 30 seconds, a minute, she could bypass collector barriers, access secure systems, create chaos in enemy strongholds from within. 24 hours until launch. She had that long to turn an unpredictable ability into a tactical advantage. No pressure. Kara left the war room and headed for the observation deck, a quiet space with viewports overlooking the cosmos. Gurus was there, assembling his sniper rifle with meditative focus. He glanced up as she entered. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Too much adrenaline. Too many thoughts about what happens tomorrow. Kara joined him at the viewport, watching stars stream past. Gurus, do you ever wonder if we're making the right call? Rushing into this, betting everything on one mission. Every day. But then I remember what happened when I tried to play it safe on the Citadel. Gangs operated freely, crimes went unsolved, justice became a bureaucratic exercise. Sometimes the only right call is the one nobody else is willing to make. His mandibles flared slightly. You're worried about the dimensional abilities. Whether they'll work when you need them. Worried I'll phase halfway through a wall and get stuck, or materialize inside a collector, or just disintegrate across quantum states. Kara flexed her hands, feeling the dimensional energies that now permeated every cell. I'm not used to powers I can't fully control. On Earth, once I understood my abilities, they were reliable. Instinctive. This is like learning to fly all over again, except the consequences of failure are existential. Then don't rely on them as primary tactics. Use what works, your strength, your speed, your heat vision. The dimensional stuff is bonus options. Gurus locked his rifle's components into place with satisfying clicks. Shepard teaches that adaptability beats specialization. We don't win through overwhelming power, we win through being unpredictable. You've already got that down. I just don't want to let anyone down. Not after. She trailed off, thinking about the colonies she hadn't saved, the people harvested while she'd been unconscious or training or dealing with Cerberus games. After what? After not saving everyone. Kara, no one saves everyone. Not you, not me, not even Shepard. The best we can do is save who we can and make their sacrifice count. Gurus shouldered his rifle, heading for the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we're going to need you at your best, whatever that ends up being. After he left, Kara remained at the viewport, watching the cosmos and feeling the dimensional energies that now defined her existence. Tomorrow, they'd jump through the Omega for relay into whatever nightmare the collectors had built. Tomorrow, she'd learn whether dimensional phasing was a tactical advantage or a catastrophic liability. Tomorrow, Kara Zor-El would discover if someone who'd already died once when her world exploded could survive being unmade and reborn again. But tonight, she was just a refugee from another reality, wearing a symbol that stood for hope in a universe that didn't know what that symbol meant, preparing to do something impossible because the alternative was accepting that extinction was inevitable. And Kara had learned long ago, the moment everyone says something is impossible is exactly when you prove them wrong. Even if proving them wrong meant becoming something no one, not Protheans, not Reapers, not even herself, fully understood. Omega, for relay looked like death given architectural form, a structure wreathed in radiation, surrounded by the shattered hulls of every ship that had attempted passage. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers, each fragment a testament to failed ambition. The relay itself pulsed with dark energy patterns that made Kara's dimensional senses scream warnings. This wasn't just dangerous space. This was space that had been weaponized, turned into a killing field by intelligences that measured time in geological epochs. Normandy State Route 2 to all stations, Joker's voice came through the intercom, his usual sarcasm edged with genuine tension. We are go for Omega, for relay transit. IFF is transmitting Reaper identification codes, courtesy of our Legion's hacking skills. If this works, we're the first ship to survive this relay in recorded history. If it doesn't, we're about to become the most spectacular wreckage in the debris field. No pressure. Kara stood in the cargo bay with the assault team, Shepard, Gurus, Grunt, Jack, and Samara. Everyone was armed, faces set with the grim determination of people who'd accepted they might die in the next hour. The Normandy shuddered as it approached the relay, mass effect fields engaging, engines building to transit velocity. Final weapons check, Shepard ordered, her voice cutting through the mounting tension. Once we're through, there's no turning back. We hit the collector base hard, fast, and without mercy. Primary objective, destroy their operation. Secondary objective, save any surviving colonists. Tertiary objective, make sure none of us die doing it. Tertiary seems optimistic, Jack muttered, purple biotic energy crackling around her fists. But what the hell? Always wanted to punch a Reaper in its stupid face. The relay activated. Transit through standard mass relays was instantaneous, one moment here, the next moment thousands of light years away. The Omega, for relay was different. Kara felt the passage as a wrenching sensation that seemed to last both a microsecond and an eternity, reality stretching around the Normandy like fabric being pulled taut. Her dimensional senses registered impossible geometries, spaces folded through configurations that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Then they were through. The collector base emerged from the cosmic background like something from nightmares given solid form. It was organic and mechanical simultaneously, vast chitinous structures merged with technological components that glowed with sickly bioluminescent light. The scale was staggering, easily kilometers across, suspended in a region of space that seemed wrong somehow. Unstable. As if reality here was thinner, more malleable. Goddess, Samara breathed. That structure predates any recorded civilization. It's ancient beyond measure. It's a Reaper construct, Legion confirmed, its optical aperture focusing on the base. Architecture matches Sovereign's internal configuration. Organic civilization harvested and repurposed. Detecting multiple collector ships, defensive platforms, and approximately 300,000 human biosignatures in stasis. 300,000. The number was incomprehensible. More people than Kara had saved in her entire career as Supergirl, held captive in a structure designed to process them into components of synthetic horrors. Weapons hot, Shepard ordered. Joker, get us to that docking platform. Everyone else, prepare for immediate combat deployment. We're going in hard. The Normandy's stealth systems flickered and died as they approached, no point in subtlety when they were about to assault a fortified position. Collector ships responded immediately, insectoid vessels swarming toward them with coordinated precision. The Normandy's upgraded weapons carved through the first wave, mass accelerator rounds and missile barrages turning enemy craft into expanding clouds of debris. But more came. Always more. Oculus drones inbound. Miranda's voice came through comms from the bridge. Point defense can't handle this volume. We need. Kara was already moving. She'd prepared for this moment, spent the last 24 hours practicing with her dimensional abilities until she could manage 15 seconds of phasing. 15 seconds to make the impossible possible. She cycled the cargo bay's airlock override, Shepard would be furious, but there wasn't time for permission, and launched herself into vacuum. Space combat without a ship or armor should have been instant death. For Kara, even with depleted powers, it was liberating. No atmosphere to slow her, no gravity to fight. She flew toward the swarm of Oculus drones with Kryptonian speed that still functioned despite everything, heat vision lancing out to detonate their explosive cores before they could reach the Normandy. Is she insane? Jack's voice crackled through Kara's Omni-tool. She's fighting in hard vacuum without a suit. She doesn't need one, Shepard responded, and Kara could hear the mixture of exasperation and approval. Kara, clear us a path to the docking platform. Everyone else, prepare for hot drop insertion. Kara tore through the drone swarm like a meteor, each impact of her fist sending metallic fragments spinning into the void. Oculus after Oculus detonated, their explosive payloads creating cascading chain reactions. It wasn't enough, more drones emerged from the base's launch bays, dozens becoming hundreds. Time to test the theory. She focused on her dimensional senses, feeling the boundaries between quantum states. With effort that made her cells burn, she shifted, partially phasing out of conventional spacetime. The Oculus targeting systems lost lock immediately. Their sensors couldn't track something that existed in multiple dimensional configurations simultaneously. Kara phased directly through an Oculus formation, rematerializing behind them to tear into their vulnerable propulsion systems. Phase, strike, phase again. She was fighting at the intersection of dimensions, using abilities that shouldn't exist to combat enemies that had calculated for every conventional tactic. They hadn't calculated for her. Path clear, she transmitted, phasing back to full materialization. Docking platform secured, for about 30 seconds before they reorganize. The Normandy dove toward the platform with velocity that would have pancaked a conventional frigate. Magnetic clamps engaged, and Shepard's assault team poured out before the ship had fully stabilized. Kara landed among them, her boots hitting alien metal that felt organic under her feet. "Welcome to hell," Shepard said, checking her weapon. "Let's make ourselves at home." The collector base's interior was a fusion of nightmare and cathedral, vast chambers stretching beyond sight, surfaces that seemed to breathe, architecture that hurt to look at directly. And everywhere, the pods. Thousands upon thousands of stasis pods, each containing a human frozen in the moment before processing. Their faces were locked in expressions of terror, and Kara felt rage building that was almost physical. They're alive, Mordin confirmed via comm link from the Normandy. Stasis preserves biological functions. Can be awakened if pods are deactivated before final processing stage. But time critical, collectors will prioritize completing harvesting operation once they detect intrusion. Then we move fast, Shepard decided. Split into teams. Kara, Gurus, Grunt, you're the hammer. Hit their central processing hub, draw their attention. Miranda, Jack, Samara, you're with me. We're finding those colonists and getting them out. Legion, Tali, Mordin, you're providing tech support and preparing the Normandy for rapid extraction. Questions? Just one, Kara said. When we reach the processing hub, what's the plan? These people are being converted into a Reaper. Destroying the facility might kill them all. Shepard's expression hardened. Then we make sure they're evacuated first. No one gets left behind to be processed. That's non-negotiable. They moved through the base in tactical formation, encountering resistance that escalated with every corridor. Collector drones emerged from walls that seemed to generate them organically. Husks, reanimated human corpses, shambled toward them with horrifying coordination. And then came the possessed units, collectors whose eyes glowed with yellow light, whose voices spoke with Harbinger's ancient malevolence. You cannot stop the cycle, Harbinger's voice echoed through a possessed collector's vocal apparatus. This unit contains multitudes. You face eternity incarnate. Kara's response was heat vision that carved through the possessed unit's thorax. I've faced gods before. You're just machines that think extinction is inevitable. I'm here to prove you wrong. Assuming direct control. More collectors seized by Harbinger's consciousness, their bodies moving with enhanced coordination, energy barriers flaring to life. This was the Reaper's direct intervention, no longer trusting their collector servants, taking personal control of the battlefield. Kara, phase through their barriers. Shepard ordered while engaging Harbinger-possessed units with coordinated fire. Get behind their line, create chaos. Kara focused, feeling dimensional energies surge through her cells. The world became fluid, walls were suggestions, barriers were illusions, solid matter was just one possible quantum state among infinite variations. She shifted, phasing out of conventional spacetime, and walked through the collector defensive line like it didn't exist. On the other side, she rematerialized in the middle of their formation. Confusion rippled through Harbinger's coordinated tactics as their rear positions came under attack from an enemy who shouldn't have been able to bypass their defenses. Kara moved like controlled lightning, super strength punching through carapaces, heat vision burning through weapons, speed that turned her into a blur of red and blue. Impressive, Harbinger acknowledged through multiple voices simultaneously. You are variables outside predicted parameters. This unit will adapt. The collectors began coordinating specifically against her, concentrated fire, biotic attacks designed to destabilize phasing, tactics that forced her to remain solid or risk complete molecular dissolution. They were learning, adapting in real time, turning her own unpredictability into a calculated variable. Grunt, clear the left flank. Guris's voice cut through combat chaos. Kara, fall back, you're drawing too much fire. But Kara had seen something through a doorway ahead, a massive chamber containing what could only be the processing center. And at its heart, suspended in energy fields that made her dimensional senses scream, was the nightmare made manifest, a Reaper under construction. It was humanoid in configuration, easily 50 meters tall, constructed from genetic material harvested from 300,000 humans. Faces were visible in its surface, colonists processed and converted, their consciousness preserved in synthetic hell. It was incomplete but functional, its enormous eyes already glowing with malevolent intelligence. Human Reaper, Legion transmitted, its synthetic voice carrying something that might have been horror. Genetic analysis confirms, composed entirely of harvested human biological material. Reapers preserve civilizations by converting them into tools of extinction. This is humanity's apotheosis, transformed into instrument of its own destruction. On the other side, she rematerialized in the middle of their formation. Confusion rippled through Harbinger's coordinated tactics as their rear positions came under attack from an enemy who shouldn't have been able to bypass their defenses. Kara moved like controlled lightning, super strength punching through carapaces, heat vision burning through weapons, speed that turned her into a blur of red and blue. Impressive, Harbinger acknowledged through multiple voices simultaneously. You are variables outside predicted parameters. This unit will adapt. The collectors began coordinating specifically against her, concentrated fire, biotic attacks designed to destabilize phasing, tactics that forced her to remain solid or risk complete molecular dissolution. They were learning, adapting in real time, turning her own unpredictability into a calculated variable. Grunt, clear the left flank. Gurissa's voice cut through combat chaos. Kara, fall back, you're drawing too much fire. But Kara had seen something through a doorway ahead, a massive chamber containing what could only be the processing center. And at its heart, suspended in energy fields that made her dimensional senses scream, was the nightmare made manifest, a Reaper under construction. It was humanoid in configuration, easily 50 meters tall, constructed from genetic material harvested from 300,000 humans. Faces were visible in its surface, colonists processed and converted, their consciousness preserved in synthetic hell. It was incomplete but functional, its enormous eyes already glowing with malevolent intelligence. Human Reaper, Legion transmitted, its synthetic voice carrying something that might have been horror. Genetic analysis confirms, composed entirely of harvested human biological material. Reapers preserve civilizations by converting them into tools of extinction. This is humanity's apotheosis, transformed into instrument of its own destruction. No, Kara said quietly, rage building to fusion reaction intensity. That's not apotheosis. That's abomination. She launched herself toward the processing center, phasing through barriers that should have stopped her, flying faster than collector targeting systems could track. Harbinger's possessed units scrambled to intercept, but they were too slow. She reached the human Reaper's containment field and placed both hands on the energy barrier. Kara, what are you doing? Shepard's voice was urgent. That containment field is generating enough energy to vaporize a frigate. I'm going to internalize it, Kara said, feeling dimensional energies responding to her will. The same way I contained the Prothean device. I can absorb this energy, destabilize the containment, and give us an opening to destroy that thing. That almost killed you last time. This time I'm stronger. I know what I'm doing. Kara hoped that was true. Get those colonists out, Shepard. I'll buy you time. She didn't wait for permission. Kara opened herself to the containment field's energies, letting them flow through cellular structures that now existed across dimensional boundaries. The pain was instantaneous and overwhelming, reality burning through her nervous system, quantum uncertainty making it unclear whether she was one person or infinite versions experiencing simultaneous existence. But it was working. The containment field weakened as she absorbed its power, destabilizing the barriers that kept the human Reaper suspended. Alarms shrieked throughout the facility. Harbinger's possessed units redirected entirely toward her position. All teams, fall back to extraction points. Shepard's voice commanded across all channels. Kara's giving us an opening. We take it now or we lose everyone. Through pain that transcended physical sensation, Kara heard the sounds of evacuation, stasis pods being released, colonists being rushed toward the Normandy, Shepard's team fighting desperate rearguard actions. She held the containment field's energies inside her dimensional matrix, felt herself becoming a living battery for forces that should have annihilated her. Harbinger materialized in front of her, not possessed unit, but holographic projection of the Reaper itself, ancient and terrible. You delay the inevitable, it said, its voice carrying the weight of millions of harvests. We are eternal. We are Legion. You are finite. This galaxy will be processed, as all galaxies before were processed. You cannot prevent the cycle. Kara met its gaze through tears of agony. Watch me. She released the containment field's energy all at once, not as an explosion, but as a dimensional cascade that tore through the processing center's foundations. The human Reaper lurched, its incomplete form becoming unstable. Energy feedback rippled through every system in the base. "Kara, get out." Gurus was physically pulling her away from the collapsing center. The whole structure's coming down. They ran through corridors that were tearing themselves apart, dimensional instabilities spreading like cancer through Reaper architecture that had stood for thousands of years. Behind them, the human Reaper collapsed, its incomplete form unable to maintain coherence without containment support. 300,000 colonists were aboard the Normandy or being processed through its medical bays. Shepard's team was intact. The mission was accomplished. Except Kara couldn't stop phasing. She flickered between dimensional states uncontrollably, her cellular structure unable to stabilize after absorbing containment field energies. One moment solid, the next moment translucent, occasionally vanishing completely before snapping back to partial materialization. She was coming apart at quantum level, her consciousness fragmenting across dimensional boundaries. Medical emergency. Gurus transmitted. Kara's cellular integrity is failing. Need immediate intervention. Getting her to medbay, Grunt rumbled, physically carrying Kara's partially phased form. She's barely solid. Like holding smoke. The Normandy was already launching, Joker executing maneuvers that defied conventional physics to escape the collapsing collector base. Through the viewports, they watched as the entire structure imploded, dimensional instabilities consuming Reaper technology that had survived for eons. Kara barely registered any of it. She was aware of multiple realities simultaneously, a version where she'd stayed solid and died in the explosion, another where she'd successfully phased and escaped, infinite variations where different choices led to different outcomes. She existed in superposition, uncertain which quantum state represented her actual reality. Then Mordin was there, injecting something into her neck. Dimensional stabilizer based on Prothean technology. Theoretical only, but should force cellular structures into single quantum state. Maybe painful. Painful was an understatement. Reality crashed back into single-state existence like every atom in her body was being forged simultaneously. Kara screamed, felt dimensions collapse into conventional spacetime, felt her consciousness snap back into linear causality. When it was over, she lay on a medbay table, solid again. Mordin's scanners confirmed cellular stability had returned. That, she gasped, was the worst thing I've ever experienced. And I've been to the Phantom Zone. Shepard stood at the bedside, her expression unreadable. You just internalized a Reaper containment field, destabilized their entire operation, and gave 300,000 people a chance at survival. The Council's going to call you a hero. Cerberus is going to want you dissected. And I'm going to make sure neither happens. Did everyone make it? All colonists evacuated. Full crew complement intact. The collector base is destroyed. Humanity's Reaper harvest has been stopped. Shepard's expression softened fractionally. You did good, Kara. Insane, reckless, terrifying, but good. Through the medbay viewport, Kara could see the Normandy jumping to FTL, leaving the Omega for relay behind. They'd done the impossible, survived where no one else had, destroyed a Reaper operation, saved hundreds of thousands. But the victory felt hollow because she knew this was just one battle in a war that had lasted 50,000 years. The Reapers were coming. Harbinger's words echoed, you cannot prevent the cycle. Maybe not. But she'd proven that cycles could be interrupted, that extinction wasn't inevitable, that even ancient intelligences could face variables they'd never calculated for. Kara closed her eyes, feeling her cellular structure finally stable, her dimensional senses quiet. She'd been transformed twice now, Kryptonian to Earth Protector to Dimensional Bridge. Each transformation had cost something, changed her fundamentally. But at the core, she was still the girl who'd watched Krypton explode and chosen to believe that worlds could be saved. Still the hero who wore hope as a symbol and refused to accept that some battles were unwinnable. This galaxy didn't know it yet, but it had gained something the Reapers never anticipated, proof that impossible odds were just statistics waiting to be disproven. And Kara Zor-El was just getting started. The Normandy State Route 2 emerged from the Omega for relay into charted space, carrying 300,000 survivors and a crew that had accomplished the impossible. News spread through extranet channels faster than FTL travel. Commander Shepard's suicide mission had succeeded. The collectors were destroyed. Humanity's harvest had been stopped. But Kara Zor-El stood in the observation deck alone, watching stars that belonged to a universe not her own, understanding that one victory didn't end a war measured in 50,000-year cycles. The dimensional transformation had changed her permanently. Mordin confirmed she would always exist partially across quantum boundaries now, not fully in any single reality, but connected to infinite variations. She could never return to exactly what she'd been, could never go home to an Earth that might not even exist in this dimensional configuration. But she'd found something else, purpose. A crew of misfits who fought impossible odds. A commander who understood that sometimes you saved people by refusing to accept that salvation was impossible. A galaxy that didn't know it yet, but needed heroes willing to stand against extinction. Shepard joined her at the viewport. The elusive man is demanding you be turned over to Cerberus for study. The Council wants you quarantined as a dimensional hazard. The Shadow Broker has put a bounty on information about you. You're officially the most wanted person in the galaxy. Just another Tuesday, Kara said with tired humor. The Reapers are still coming. What we did bought time, nothing more. When they arrive, we'll need every advantage. Shepard paused. Including someone who exists outside their calculations. Someone who can phase through their defenses, survive their weapons, fight in ways they've never encountered. You're recruiting me, Kara realized. Permanently. I'm asking if you want to stay. You've done enough, more than enough. If you want to search for a way home, use that Prothean technology to find dimensional bridges back to your Earth, no one would blame you. Kara thought about Alex, about National City, about a life she'd known before dimensional barriers tore it away. Then she thought about 300,000 people she'd helped save, about millions more who would face harvest if the Reapers weren't stopped. I stay, she decided. Home is where you're needed. Where you can make a difference. Right now, that's here, with this crew, fighting threats that span dimensions and timelines. She turned to Shepard. Besides, someone needs to make sure your suicide missions actually succeed. Can't let you have all the fun. Shepard's lips quirked in rare genuine smile. Welcome to the Normandy, Supergirl. Official position, Dimensional Warfare Specialist. Unofficial position, proof that hope isn't dead, even in a galaxy facing extinction. The observation deck's viewport showed infinite stars, infinite possibilities, infinite challenges. Kara Zor-El had crossed dimensional boundaries, lost everything familiar, been transformed beyond recognition. She'd also found new family among Shepard's crew, new purpose fighting impossible odds, new meaning in a symbol that stood for hope even in darkest space. The Reapers calculated in millions of years. But they'd never calculated for someone who refused to accept that extinction was inevitable, who'd proven that cycles could be broken, who existed in quantum states their ancient intelligence couldn't predict. The war for the galaxy had just begun. And somewhere in dark space, ancient machines were about to discover that their perfect cycle had encountered its first true variable, a last daughter of Krypton who'd learned that impossible was just another word for not yet achieved. The galaxy will remember this. More stories await.